It's been a while since we've had this kind of guest format on the vPub. In fact, the last time I did this, and I'm a wee bit ashamed to admit this, was back in 2024, believe it or not, when Chilton was on. So it's been a long, long time since and it's a shame because I think that there's so many people out there in the industry that I enjoy spending time with, and that's the people that I want to invite on in order so that we can spend some time together with you, the people I'm reaching out to, fellow whiskey geeks, people that are thinking and chasing and loving whiskey the same way that we do. So I missed it. I really did miss it. And I decided that in 2026, I'm going to make sure that it becomes part of the pub curriculum once more. I can't think of a better guest, honestly, to kick things off with in 2026 than Ollie Chilton, who's going to join us tonight. I'm looking forward to it as always. I hope you are too. And I'll see you in a second. Hello, whiskey folk. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the vPub. How you all doing? I hope you're all doing very, very well. It's nice to have you here again for our usual wee Thursday night session. Yeah, as I was saying just before the intro there, it's been a while and I do apologise. These guest sessions will be more of a regular thing in 2026. I know that I get some feedback from you guys that you enjoy the guest sessions and things, but I tend to, the people that don't enjoy it, I'm not going to get feedback from them. So I'm just going to follow the people that give me the feedback. Most of the guests that I've had on so far, in fact, all of the guests down to each individual are invited forward by me. They're people that I've reached out to and asked them to join. I've never, ever taken, let's say, an offer for an interviewee. One of the reasons that I didn't do many guest sessions in 2025 was exactly that reason, because I think as whiskey started to slow down and people were maybe a bit more available, certainly a bit more willing and keen to maybe get their product out there, I started to get a lot of emails of wonderful guests for my podcast and things like that. And it tended not to be obviously from them, the people themselves. It would be from agencies and representatives and things like that. And I realized that a lot of people thought the vPub was something that it wasn't. And I decided last year that I was going to back off guests for a wee while. And it was just, you know what it's like with the vPub? I'm always just kind of hopefully going to be able to follow my own mood. I hope that's okay with you. But when I was looking back at some of the guests I've had on before, whether it's the kind of what the industry drinks topic or anything else, I realized how much I missed it. Hopefully you guys missed it too. So we're going to get back on to things tonight again. I hope you all know who Ollie Chilton is, but if you don't know who he is right now, by the end of this stream, you're going to have a much, much better idea. But before we get into that, let's do what we always do. Let's spend a wee bit of time while you're all getting comfortable, while you're getting your setups ready, while you're pouring your drams, getting your wee glass of water and your droppers, whatever it is you're doing. Some of you blocks of ice, who knows? Let's do what we always do and jump into the lounge so I can welcome some of you beautiful whiskey folk and dedicated barflies. Welcome everyone. I hope you're all doing great. I could do with having something in the glass. It's not particularly on theme. It's just a wee dram that I enjoy. So to kick things off tonight, I can tell that when I get speaking to my guest, the drams that we pour could have us all over the place. But I'm having a wee Altmore 12, really nice little malt, fully natural, 46% ABV, and a delight. Anyway, George in Arizona is in. George, good to see you, buddy. He's bought me a dram to kick things off. It's really nice to welcome you, George. How you doing? He's saying, lifting a glass on the recent occasion of my 76th year of life. My goodness, George. Well done to you, fella. Cheers to everyone, Aquavite. It's wonderful, George, for you to be in here celebrating your 76th birthday with all of us on the vPub, buddy. George in Arizona, many happy returns to you, fella. Happy birthday, man. Cheers. That's incredible, George. I'm picking up the orange like I always do. So if you're trying to get my attention, just type Aquavite or at Aquavite, and I should be able to pick you up. Okay, Pedro Menezes in Brazil is saying, good evening, Barflies and Aquavite. Pedro, it's always great to have you in, buddy. I hope you're doing well. Michael Wood is saying, evening, Roy. Remind everyone to give you a like. You always forget to do that, Michael. Hopefully people have worked out. We all watch enough YouTube. You know, it's kind of funny, every channel, every video that you watch, people always say, remember to like and subscribe and hit that bell icon and do this and do that. And it's right, and they probably do get a little bit of a bump out of it, but you know the drill by now. Michael, you're quite right. If you enjoy the stream tonight that we bring to you and you think it's worthwhile whiskey content, by all means, hit that like button. YouTube like it, and it also reassures people that turn up after the event that it's legitimate whiskey content. Jimmy Legg is here. Jimmy, how are you, big guy? Nice to have you. And he says, it's not a shame. We're here for you and us, but we like a guest too. Aye, thank you, Jimmy. Thank you that you don't mind and that you're willing to indulge and follow my whim. Derek McGrainer from Ireland, good to see you, buddy, saying, good evening, folks, Aquavite, and good evening, Gaffer. Nice to have you in, Derek. Hopefully I'll see you in Limburg this year. Looking forward to it. It's getting closer all the time. Gerben Blocker from the Netherlands, good to see you, buddy. Hello, Roy. How are you? Hope to see you soon. Will I see you in Leith this year, Gerben? I think you're coming over for the Leith festivities this year. My friend from Sweden, Per Calderby, is in here. I got to see Per earlier this week. What a treat that was. He sent greetings from Saskia at the members' room at Bath Street. So it looks like Per is back in SMWS in Glasgow again, which is brilliant. My light has just gone out in the background. I don't know why that's happened. It's not really going to affect things much. Per, I hope you enjoy yourself tonight, and say hello to Saskia straight back at her from me. Jerry Miller is saying, good evening, Roy. Good evening, Jerry. How are you doing? Always nice to have you in, buddy. I hope you're keeping well. And Whiskey with Molly is here saying, good evening, Whiskey folk, and hi, Roy. And Hellswood is saying, just me and the chat tonight, and the cat tonight, sorry. Looking forward to chatting with you all. Hells, it's always wonderful to have you in. Andy will be working till a wee bit later. I think I got a message to suggest he'd be back at 10:45. And I guess he'll be putting on a pair of slippers and pouring a dram, unless you already have that waiting for him. Fantastic to have you in, Helen. Overland Drams, that's Chuck. Good to see you, Chuck. He's saying, listening in from the States. Always a pleasure to have you here, buddy. Hope you're keeping well. And Jimmy Legg is saying, not mentioning hitting the like button is a display of confidence. Yeah, that's how to dress up sheer utter forgetfulness. Dress up as just being confident, right, Jimmy? JC Andrews Whiskey is in. JC Andrews Whiskey, that might be the first time I've welcomed you. Even in Aquavite, first time joining live in a while. May not be able to stay for the full session, but we'll watch the rest on the replay. JC, it's wonderful. Thank you for dropping in and picking up what you can, but it's nice to have you here. Okay, I'm going to struggle with this one. Ben Kovac is in. Ben Kovac. I'm sorry, my friend. He's saying, have you managed to get a Jane Street, the original one? You mentioned you will try to get one in Jeff's live stream. I've got one of the Jane Street so far, but it's not the original. I think the original is actually a Glencadam. And I'm not telling tales out of school there because there's a wee kind of sticker on the back label, I've heard, and if you look, it tells you which batch it is and that it's a Glencadam. Fantastic value, single malts from Woodrow's of Edinburgh, the Jane Street series. The one I have is the smoky one, and it's going down an absolute treat. The Ginger Genius is saying, good evening, Roy, and all the barflies. John, good to see you, buddy. And Per is saying, Aquavite, I've left the members' room already, but had a good chat with Saskia, a very good crack. Now at the hotel, you know where, Ardnahoe in the glass. Good for you, Per. I hope Glasgow is continuing to look after you, buddy. And I hope that you're not working too hard. Gary Field is saying, no more drams for me tonight. Had 4 at London SMWS. Good for you, Gary. It's a school night after all, buddy. But maybe if you're enjoying on the replay or whatever, you maybe have a wee dram in the glass. And you can look forward to one on the weekend, right? Henrik Schmidt is saying, I love the guest sessions and distillery visits with all the other files. Thank you very much. Files or flies. Good to have you, Henrik, as always, my friend. And JC is saying, changed my YouTube name on a whiskey channel I've subscribed to. Okay, JC Andrews. So maybe New Year's a different name. Is that possibly it? Tiranda flag. That looks TL Aranda flag. Oh my goodness, there's a new one. Missed you, Roy, at the Village Whiskey and Rum Fair in Nuremberg. You know, every year I threaten to attempt the Nuremberg thing, but it always lands around my kid's birthday. So it means that it's quite challenging. You have to pick your battles right. This year, I think I'm focusing on, and in fact, I'll share that I've already booked my flights for Limburg this year. Mr. Ralph Oz is in saying, happy Thursday. The countdown to the Leith Festival is on. I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to it myself as well. And I'm just trying to work out if that's a changed name. I can see you're a barfly. I recognize the picture. It's just a different name. It's obviously YouTube has changed your handle, buddy, but it'll be wonderful to welcome you in Leith, and I'm looking forward to it. Just a wee bit of housekeeping before we go live. I know there's a lot of my supporters, guardians and patrons waiting for me to announce a lock-in. But recently, and when we have the lock-in, that's when I have a relaxed Sunday night session with just my supporters. It's very, very slow pace and comfortable and easy, and it's a kind of behind-the-scenes thing and what's happening in the background, getting advanced kind of details on projects or whatever's going on, whatever's on my mind, basically. But the one at the end of February I had to postpone. Sorry, the end of January I had to postpone, and I've been trying for the last 2 weeks now to get a Sunday night free. There's a 50-50 chance that it could be this Sunday with everyone. And if that happens, just keep your eye on the Patreon feed if you're still on Patreon. But of course, if you're part of the new squad in the Aquaviti Guardians at aquaviti.com, you'll get the blog posts and the emails updates from there. And you'll also be updated on the Circle social media app. That's the Aquaviti Guardians social media app, which you get access to when you sign up at aquaviti.com. I'd be looking forward to get everyone up to date with everything that's what's happening with the events for the year ahead, whether it's Leith or Limburg or Glasgow, whatever it may be, bottling projects, topics, things that are happening behind the scenes and the vPub and just general life stuff. Also, when we talk about Leith, I have just released details of an event to people that are supporting me through the Guardians as well. I can't do it through Patreon, which is the reason I had to move from Patreon to Guardians. I can't promote any alcohol sales or events or that type of thing through Patreon. They don't like it these days. So I had to move. That's why we're at aquaviti.com now. But everyone that's supporting me there know about an event that's happening the day after the Leith Whisky Festival. We've got full access to the Belfry bar in Edinburgh. And Rory and I are going to get together. We have already got together and we've spent not an insignificant amount of money at auction. He's bought 3 bottles. I've bought 3 bottles within a limited budget. And the two of us are going to go head-to-head blind. Everyone that comes along will be trying these whiskies blind. You'll get to know what they are, of course. You're not on test, but you do get to choose which whiskies are best. Rory and I will be awarded points for our successes. And the winner gets off with paying anything towards the bar bill. What do I mean by the bar bill? Well, everyone knows if you come to an Aquaviti event, everyone gets welcome drinks from me. I can run up a handsome tab at the bar, and Rory and I are going to go head to head to see who pays in 2026. So I think it should be great fun. There'll be fantastic whiskies as well. Obviously, when you go to auction, you're able to buy whatever you want to buy. But what we love more than anything is that ability just to get together as a community in real life. So many of you are in Edinburgh, of course, because of the Leith Independent Spirits Festival on the 21st. So a lot of you are still in town on the Sunday, so it makes perfect sense. We did an event at the Belfry last year, and it was such good fun that it's a very easy decision to go ahead and do it again this year. So the details have gone out to the tiers so far. So Guardians got the email yesterday. Evangelists got it today. Tomorrow, all the disciples will get the emails. And then on Saturday, Drum Ambassadors will get it. And the reason I have to do that is because it's limited, isn't it? It's we can only fit so many people in, and you can only pour so many drams from a bottle of whiskey. So that's all the details are there. If you're interested in more, you can find out more at aquaviti.com if you're already a supporter. And if you're not a supporter, please consider it. You might enjoy yourself. Anyway, let's get on with the session tonight. Macallan Fine and Rare, my pal Doc is here. Nuremberg 2027 is on February 19th to 21st. So no clash with the kid's birthday next year. Doc's already looking out for me. He knows what my excuses are potentially going to be for next year, right? Good to see you, and Doc. I hope you're keeping well, buddy. I'm looking forward to seeing you in Limburg. Matt Boo, that's Matt. I don't know which Matt that is, but we know it's Matt. It's nice to have you in. He's saying, even Roy got a sample of a 1968 vintage Glenalbin. My goodness, from the malt library in the glass tonight. First time trying anything from the distillery. So Glenalbin's an Inverness distillery, long lost, of course, one of the triumvirate from Inverness. Malt library is a whiskey bar in Inverness. So it's super, super cool, Matt. It's a very, very privileged thing. That whiskey was made before I was even born. Quite incredible. Mel is saying, good evening, Roy. Good evening, Barflies. Nice to have you in, Mel. And Alistair Gray in Speyside, he's saying, wish I could make the Sunday for the festival weekend. However, already promised IKEA with Mrs. Gray. Well, when you're down in the big smoke, you've got to go round to the big shop, the big blue shop, haven't you, Alistair? Don't worry about it. I'm looking forward to seeing you at the festival on a Saturday. Rick Johnson in San Francisco is saying, nice looking polo shirt, Roy. I bet it looks great in XL or XXL. See if you tune in to the lock-in on Sunday. If it is Sunday, it might be next Sunday, whenever I manage to do it, Rick. There'll be news. And I have to say that you're the driver behind this news. So, yeah. Watch this space, buddy. Dave Barnes is saying, watching tonight on a packed underground train. Dave, thank you wherever you are tuning in. You might not be able to have a dram on that underground train, but it's nice to have you here, buddy. Jimmy Legg is saying, if children can't be used as excuses, why would anyone have any? Says Jimmy Legg. Brilliant, spot on. Matt is saying, Matt Burton, YouTube changed the names. I've no idea how to change it back. So if you go back to your channel page, so if you click on basically your own name or your own icon, it takes you back to your homepage, whether you've got content uploaded there or not, you can manage and control your profile and what your handle is from there. YouTube did it wholesale just a few months ago. Everybody's name has been changed, and it seems to be a constant frustration for a lot of folk. Anyway, let's get on with welcoming in my guest tonight. You know what the format is tonight? It's just an informal chat, but throughout the night, we're going to have kind of certain hard points where I've asked Ollie to put in some effort tonight, and that is for him to think about what he would consider as his Permashelf candidate. That's a bottle that he might consider he would have himself or recommend to somebody, the type of thing that as soon as it was finished, you enjoyed it so much and it was so accessible and affordable that it'd be easy for you to just go out and replace it again, hence the term Permashelf. Then he would recommend his crowd pleaser. What do I mean by a crowd pleaser? That's not obvious. You know, that type of thing. You're going into a scenario where there's whiskey folk and non-whiskey folk and maybe whiskey curious folk. You don't know. You want to take something along that's safe, not too geeky, not too extreme, not too out there, but something that you know is just going to have most people purring like whiskey-filled kittens in whatever event you're going to encounter them. That's the idea of a crowd pleaser. Then, the middle third dram, we're going to ask him to put forward a decadent pour. A decadent pour is that moment when it's nice when we can share whiskey and, you know, have lots of people to drink whiskey with, but sometimes we just want to be sitting on an armchair on our own with no noise, nobody to bother us. And we're going to have this really self-indulgent thing, something that's just us, something that we might be hiding at the back of the cabinet. There might be guard whiskies in front of it in order to keep it safe, something that's a decadent treat for ourselves. The fourth pick is a VIP pour, and that's about when you're with kindred spirits, you're with somebody who's a fellow whiskey geek, maybe something that's a wee bit special, something there's a story behind, something that the person that you're giving it to is going to receive that dram and say, wow, I know you're pouring me something that's really quite special and nice. And finally, the attention grabber. Again, that's obvious. It's one of these kind of extreme, big, bold, loud, shouty, amazing, wonderful, explosive, epiphany-laden drams that it's very difficult for you to be in a social environment and not fall into the whiskey glass. It grabs all your attention, hence the name. That's the 5 categories tonight. Anyway, let's not keep them waiting any longer. Now that you're all in and settled, I'm going to reach out to an ex-philosophy student, a happy accidental whiskey career type, and an unashamed self-declared whiskey botherer extraordinaire. Oliver Chilton, welcome in to the vPub, my friend. It's nice to have you, Ollie.
Thank you, Roy. I will just say you're never an ex-philosophy student. You're forever bothered by thoughts that lead you to depression and whiskey.
Yes.
My entire career is driven by David Hume, essentially.
Is it true that philosophy is all about being dour and unhappy and depressed? Is it really?
Only ironically, the Scottish what's the period called? Well, basically, David Hume's in the world who basically came around and said, well, nothing's possibly real, and then got really depressed about it and drank too much. Which seems like a pretty good place to go. Although he also was very funny, so say that as you will. Or you can read to be really depressed.
Well, I think it's a good place to start things. I'm going to obviously ask you what your whiskies are soon, but if I know where you are now, Ollie. I know that you're here as the head blender for Elixir Distillers, of course, which puts you in charge of a lot of liquid and a significant portfolio of brands as well, which we'll get to touch upon this evening, I hope. But I've spoken to you face to face, I know, and I've picked up little bits and pieces here and there. Obviously did a wee bit of research for tonight. And I know that you are an accidental whiskey career. You're on an accidental whiskey career path. It wasn't your intention. So give us a quick executive summary of where you started and how you ended up here and where here is. Does that make sense to kick things off?
Yeah. I am still, I believe, in my heart, a shop boy. I started in a whiskey shop as a part-time job while I was at university. I hated my degree, and so I spent more time working than I did studying, which didn't do very well for my degree, but I did okay out of the career, so I'm not going to complain about it. I always liked whiskey. I liked whiskey from a young age. Through my dad, and I think a lot of people have similar stories. You get introduced to whiskey through someone who means a lot to you. As a child, I idolized my dad. He also was a man who believed very firmly that you should. Who believes very firmly you should try as much as possible. So my first introduction to whiskey were trying Balvenie Doublewood, Lefroy 10-year-old, and J&B Rare, and I was 16. And he was like, well, you're going to get into spirits at some point, so we might as well do this now. I think the expectation was I wouldn't like any of them, and I liked everything. So I started at university. I always had a job. I've worked since I was about 14, never not had paid employment. And a whiskey shop opened opposite the coffee shop I was working in. And I just thought, well, that's a lot cheaper than working and paying for it. They'll just give it to me. So,
and that whiskey shop, would that have been the Whisky Exchange?
Yeah, it was the whiskey shop in York. So it's part of the whiskey shop chain.
Okay.
Still there in York.
Okay.
Yeah, I went to uni in York. My mum's family's all from York. I claim Yorkshireness when required, like if you need a passport for getting in. Yeah. I worked there for a few years. I've still got friends. I mean, it's a wonderful shop. It certainly was a wonderful in terms of people. My first manager, he owns a fantastic shop, independent spirit shop over in just outside York now. Okay. My second manager, who was also my best friend at the time, he works still in drinks, producing spirits over in America. And my other pal, Joe Clark, who worked with me at the same time when he was like a child, 18 years old, he runs or makes all the whiskey for Spirit of Yorkshire. So it was definitely a place that you went and ended up becoming slightly obsessed with it. I think.
So did you? I just want to work out, was it kind of happenstance that you, or was it because you already loved whiskey that you went to the whiskey shop for the job?
I went in. I didn't go in for a job. I went in to see if the manager liked coffee and would give me free whiskey in exchange for coffee. And I bothered him so much that he said, "Look, it'd just be cheaper if I employed you."
Wow.
So it was all luck, and I was there for a good few years, and then I joined Odd Bins, which I think is a pretty hard-trodden route in the drinks industry. You have to survive Odd Bins. Gives you a really dark sense of humour. and a love of bitter black coffee because you can't afford the milk. But they also do good training and everything else. And I was at Oddbins till 2011. So that was, I started in 2004, 2005 in whiskey, and then
15 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, 15 years. I joined Whisky Exchange 15 years ago this year. So I left, Oddbins closed 2011. Last time things went pretty far south for the drinks industry, and a lot of us lost our jobs. I ended up in London because my girlfriend was there, my now wife, and I had a pal who was the manager, still runs all the retail for Whisky Exchange, Alex Huskinson. Anyone who's ever in London, if you can get to one of the Whisky Exchange, ask if Alex is there. He is genuinely the most knowledgeable man you'll ever meet on all spirits, full stop, like unbelievable and humble as anything. And he offered me a part-time job at the Whisky Exchange for Wednesdays and Sundays. And I did 2 weeks and I was doing 100 hours a week, which was standard kind of London operating procedure. You know, you paid no money and you work all the hours because if you're from outside London, what you don't realise going in is you will not be able to afford the rent. So yeah, it was a good. I had a good time. I was in retail a long time. I love it. I still think it's the best. If you want to learn about whiskey or whiskey, go and work in a specialist whiskey shop. The questions you get are incredible. The amount of product you have access to is incredible. And you tend to be surrounded by amazing people. I've worked with, through retail, I worked with so many knowledgeable people who've been in the industry for decades and decades. Yeah.
You would have been also a colleague of Billy Abbott as well back in the day, right?
Billy is still one of my best friends. I speak to Billy, spoke to him 2 nights ago. And we both started 2011, both started at the same time. He has seen me at my absolute best and absolute worst. He was the man who corrected all of my spelling and all of my grammar on anything I've ever written for the Whisky Exchange or Elixir Distillers, which is a surprisingly large amount given I'm dyslexic and crap at writing. So,
oh, is that right? You're dyslexic?
You name it, I've got it as a learning difficulty. Basically, I was difficult to teach, they think. Or just stubborn, I'm not sure.
Well, it's amazing that you found whiskey, because can I be honest and tell you why I reached out to you? I mean, it was nice that I'd got to meet you and over a couple of events and get to know you a wee bit, have a chat, work out that it was easy to talk to you about, well, whatever whiskey was. But over the years, and I'm quite surprised to consider how compact that time has been, it feels like you may have been doing it for longer, but over the years, I've encountered a lot of product that's had the name Oliver Chilton behind it over the years. Whether that's been through products that's come from festivals, whether it's club tastings through people like Julie Hamilton and things, obviously a one-time colleague of yours as well, or things that I've just purchased myself, picked it up and bought it and worked out this is an Ollie bottle. It became very, very reassuring, Ollie, because, you know, we have this things, the people that you're talking about that came into that shop, the knowledge you were building, you had that fantastic position to be able to enjoy whiskey from a kind of pseudo industry perspective and a consumer perspective at the same time, and also as a whiskey geek and a whiskey enthusiast yourself. But for most of us, we're coming into that shop to buy something. For me, I found it very, very easy once I got over the hurdle of what an independent bottler was, that when it was a Single Malts of Scotland bottling, as an example, or whether it was a Port Askaig, it was a buy on site. It was very easy for me to feel like I didn't need to try it before I bought it. And I know that there were people before you, but I suspect that a lot of it was down to your hand involved in selecting whiskey. Would you say that you've landed, despite your learning difficulties, as you call them, you know, would you say you've found yourself in a position that suits a skill set?
I don't see. I'm not very good at the drinking something and saying it tastes nice. Isn't that hard, right? And literally anyone can do it.
It's true.
Although I've met people who struggle. I am incredibly lucky, right? So there's a lot of stuff with my name on it because we bottle a lot of stuff, right? We're somewhere encroaching on 250 single casks a year and mental amount of batch product and everything else. So we're in our very small bit of this relatively small industry that makes lots of money for lots of people. We're quite big, right? So we get to play with lots of stuff. I'm also incredibly lucky because when I started doing cask selection, which was for about, I guess the first year would have been 2012, 2013 when I started running or being one of the organisers for Whisky Show. One, there was loads of whiskey available, like mental amounts of whiskey available.
Yeah.
And I do think it's quite hard for people to understand how different it was. When I first started, 2004, 2005, you couldn't sell Port Ellen because nobody bloody wanted it. You couldn't sell, like, you were trying to sell Brewer at 80 quid and people, it's a bit pricey. I've never heard of this company, Double Slang. And you're like, yeah. And so on and so forth. So even by that kind of time, 2012, 2013, it was getting busier, but we were, at the Whisky Exchange, we were a big deal. Like all 40 of us that worked there, because it wasn't a big company. And Sukhinder's view, and I will always say, the thing I was luckiest was meeting Sukhinder. He makes so many things possible just because we'll just give it a go. But we had choice, right? And that was the real secret. We could not bottle stuff. We could find whatever we liked it. So in a way, like it was somewhat easy. Certainly it felt it. The stresses were definitely not about how to choose stuff. Choosing stuff was the easy bit. A great example would be one of my earliest jobs for cask selection would have been working with Signatory. So we used to bottle maybe half a dozen to a dozen bottlings with Signatory every year. And you'd go up to Pitlochry and you'd wander around the warehouses. And that was the romantic bit, the bit that everyone thinks is how it actually works, right? You wander around these beautiful dunnage warehouses. You were up there, right, recently.
Yes, yeah.
The warehouses are brilliant, right? It's a great place to be.
I'd be interested. Have you been since they've extended it all? And
yeah, well, I haven't been for a couple of years now. Just because
each door that opens, it feels like you're further and further into Narnia. It's just whiskey Narnia. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's wonderful. Yeah. So
I've been up maybe since probably 22, since after the sale of Whisky Exchange, and then. But he built all the warehouses on both sides.
Yes.
With this crazy hall in the middle that he doesn't use anymore. But yeah, we'd go up and we would do exactly as you'd expect. You'd walk through the warehouses, you'd pop bungs, you'd try lots of whiskies. And the first time we did it, we're getting loads of samples, and we put them in a bag. And I'm thinking, oh, well, that one's really nice, and that one's really nice. And Sukhinder looks good, so shut. All of it's really nice in here.
Yeah.
What we do now is we take it home, we get it to room temperature, we try it again. And he was absolutely right. We probably had about 40 samples. And yeah, you're lucky if from great stock, right? Because Andrew, believe me, has some of the best stock in the industry. And great casks, he looks after his wood, does a really great job.
Yep.
But out of those 40 casks, you're lucky if you're getting 6, right? And then you're phoning up and going, can we get more samples?
Yeah.
Which seems mental. But back then you could do that because people wanted to sell and there was lots of stock and a lot of it was great. So yeah, I mean, I like to think that hopefully we do a good job. And certainly as an independent bottler, you are only as good as your last bottle. So you do have to have that in mind. But I've also just had incredible stuff to work with and been incredibly lucky where I ended up.
It's amazing how many knowledgeable people and skilled people I meet that often say that they've just been lucky. I don't know if it was Jack Nicklaus or Gary Player who said, yes, I have been very, very lucky, but I find the harder I work, the luckier I am. So I wonder if there's just a lot of humility there. What have you got in the glass Hey, Ollie, what are you drinking? What are you sipping away? I've shared mine's as an Altmore, which I think is a distillery you like.
It is, yeah. I was on one not too long ago. I found it really interesting. I sent you a bottle, right? So because I wanted to share this with you.
This one?
In my glass. Yeah, that one.
Well, this is the only one you sent, so
yeah, it's the only one. Yes, it was a 20cl with nothing written on it. I actually got to the box. I got to the box and went, oh, crap, I haven't written anything on it. So, wow, you'll know it from me. So I put this in my glass. I loved your questions, by the way. The questions are brilliant because they do make you think. This doesn't exist yet, and in fact, in the format you're trying it, it'll never exist.
Are we suggesting that this is your Permashelf pick?
No, yes and no. Maybe in the future.
Right? But not right now. You have a Permashelf picked.
I have a Permashelf picked as well. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
But this is. I hope this will be other people's Permashelf picks. Right?
Oh, so I think I know where you're going with this. I know what this could be.
Yeah.
Okay, this is an interesting thing to start with, if I'm right. Carry on, please.
So I obviously we buy lots of casks. I go out to Spain every year. I've got a good friend as well as someone I work with who's a cooper, and every Christmas he sends me ham and oil and olives and stuff, right? And
wonderful.
This year was different. He didn't send me any of those things. He sent me an 8-litre Oloroso sherry cask, empty, with my name on it. And he said, "There you go." And it just sits. It sits next door in the office. And so I received it. I was like, I probably need to put something in it quick because I don't want it to go off or anything. And I was looking around the office going, what have I got? And I just finished doing the first. So when we do vattings, what we do is you do a bench sample, which you're just using kind of composite samples to put together. And then before we go to doing the final vat, we get a sample of every single cask. We cut out anything we don't want. And then I make up a representative, which ends up, if you're doing like a 70 cask batch, it ends up being about 8 litres of liquid, right? So it's quite big. I've got big demijohns you can't see in the back of me, and I top those up with liquid, and I can then draw a sample off from that, and I'll have something to sit against the vat so I know what's going on. And I looked at my Tormore 12-year-old that I'd made up because we're bottling Tormore this year. We put it to vat in Jan, and I made this composite back in December when we selected the casks, and I thought I'll just stick that in there. So I've got a Tormore 12-year-old, which is sitting in a little Oloroso 8-litre in my tasting room come kitchen because I'm in a temporary solution for tasting room. And this is it. So I sent it to you because I thought it's very worky, but it's a great way to start. I love the idea of a Permashelf bottle. I have a Permashelf cask, right? I've got a little 8-litre, so I'll just have to revive that each year, or every 3-4 months, whenever it runs out. And I thought it'd be kind of a nice thing to share. It's not like I'm ever going to get to bottle it for anyone, so the only people ever try it, they'll have to come to my house.
So just to kind of unpack ever so slightly before we go on to what your pick actually is, you've already teased us there. The Tormore 12, which is what you've been building towards since you took it over in 2022, right? So you're now you're at the point of being 4 years into taking over the distillery. It's taken you 4 years to develop a product to put it out there. This is going to be your anchor, your main core range. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we've made 3. Well, we're launching 3 core SKUs. In reality, we probably have 5, but the other 2 will come later on.
Okay, so what's the first 3? Tormore 12.
Tormore 12, Tormore Timeless, which is a non-age statement, and Tormore 16, sherry cask.
Oh, okay. A 16 sherry cask.
Well, yeah, sherry finish. Yeah, absolutely. Because when we bought the stock, there wasn't any sherry here. So.
Yeah, Tormore, right?
Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing, and I know I'm desperate to ask you what your Permashelf is, but it can wait for now. Tormore Timeless So just I've got a couple of Tormores. I wasn't able to get all the ones that you released as your blueprint, but I got the toasted barrel here, and I have to say my favourite is this one here. This is the bourbon barrel selection. I've got the older Tormores from your previous ownership. Obviously, I've got things, the 14 and the 16 that are almost gone now and are long discontinued. But in the background, then, we can surmise that you have been in a development phase, and a phase of kind of understanding what you've got there, re-racking, trying to work out what the strategy and the route forward is for Tormore. We've had some single cask releases, some limited releases, and these blueprint releases that came out in 2025. The third member of that blueprint series was a 10-year-old sherry cask, if I remember well.
Cream sherry, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And then we now in 2026 are at the point where you're ready to share the core range with us. This is exciting. I knew it was coming. I don't know if it's coming. When is it going to look like this, Ollie?
Similar but different. So similarities in some of the lettering, and it won't look exactly the same. And there's a slightly different bottle. There's a bespoke bottle that's fully recycled glass, etc., etc. So there's all the pack stuff, which I hate, by the way. Where if I had my way, we would just sell whiskey direct out of cask and be done with it. You'd all turn up with jars. Apparently, that's not a thing. So what you're trying now is essentially the 3 10-year-olds put together in a ratio. So it's
I see.
And cream sherry, and hence
the blueprint was almost like a deconstruction, an advanced deconstruction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I always had in my head what 12 would be. Timeless is different. It's lighter, it's fresher, it's cleaner, and it's supposed to be very accessible whiskey.
The blueprint series came out of 48. I suspect this is 48 or higher.
So this is sitting about 48 currently. Well, it's sitting at 50 actually. So we'll be bottling at 46, non-chill filtered, no colouring. But we vat at 50. So what we do is we vat the stock together, reduce the strength to 50%. We put it back into refill butts. We're not looking for colour or flavour from those. We're just looking to rest it for as long as we can, and with the additional water. And then, we'll get reduced on the bottling line down to 46.
So when it gets to the bottling, it gets disgorged, goes into a bigger vat there, and then it gets brought down to its 46, and that's the bottling strength.
Yeah.
Okay. I have to ask you, Ollie, this is the vPub, and you're probably maybe not even at the point where that's decided yet, but let's take your 12-year-old, fully natural, 12-year-old Speyside malt that I think there's going to be a desire for because it's been so long since we've had it. What's your idea of the sweet spot for retail?
So commercially, we haven't finished that yet, but it will probably be around the 50 mark for the 12. Timeless will be sub 40.
So the non-age statement sub 40. Is that going to be potentially less than 46 then?
Yeah, it'll be 43%. And then, we're trying to build in like different places. So it's funny, we, as I said, I come from a independent, very clearly independent retail background. Right? I grew up in independent retail. I'm happiest selling and talking to independent retailers. I've worked as an independent bottler for 15 years or so, and that world, the idea of doing a 43% product is kind of wild. Like, why you wouldn't do that? As soon as you try and do mass, like bulk, you suddenly go.
We also have to frame the scale of Tormore. We're not talking about 400,000 litres from Ardnahoe or 275,000 litres from Springbank. The scale of Tormore is what?
3.5 million litres in a 5-day week. We're a 5 million litre site if we're full on. So
3.5 to 5 million litres, an ex-blending stock distillery. Okay, so the scale of it is is significant. Okay, Ollie, sorry to interrupt, but I just
No,
I think
I will say, and I'll throw this in there. It has been used as blending stock for a while, but the best thing that we've bought with Tormore is the history. So we've got every filling record. I mean, the books are incredible. The history's nuts. The people involved are crazy. And my favourite letter so far is Neil Gunn, the writer, who was a consultant, because that's who you hire as your whiskey consultant, writers. And he writes to the director of Long John, Mackey. He says, "Dear Mr. Mackey, thank you so much for the sample of new make. The spirit is very fine with none of that usual Speyside guff, which I just think is pitch perfect as far
guff.
The Speyside guff. That Speyside guff you get from Macallan."
Yeah.
And he said it will no doubt work very well for your Long John blend, but I would also say it will make a very fine single after 8 to 10 years in second fill sherry. And then in the filling logs, in the filling books, or the records, they fill to two separate entities. So they fill for Long John and then they fill for Tormore. So yeah, it's been for blending stock, but they had an idea of a brand for Tormore single malt in 1959, 1960. In historical context, that's crazy.
This is before Glenfiddich. This is before Glenmorangie, Lefroy.
Fiddich's 56. So Fiddich's straight malts mid-50s, and that is not the first single malt. That's a nonsense. There's single malt sold before that, single malt bottled regularly before that, particularly
but all domestically, right?
No, Islay was shit. Like Ardbeg, Lefroy would be shipping over to America, sold as medicine to people
during Prohibition, of course.
So that was pretty common. We've opened a couple in the past. We opened a couple of bottles like Ardbeg from the 1920s. But in terms of branded, like marketed single malt, Glenfiddich's largely recognised as the first, and that's mid-50s. And then you have, through the 60s, you have Macallan, Highland Park, Glendronach. There's a really good book, Schweppes Scotch, which I'm sure you've seen yet. And there's a list in there, so that's published 1983. And there's a list of single malts that are making significant or significantly challenging. I can't remember how they phrase it, but it's like basically these are the only single malt brands that are actually making a difference. And you'll know all of them, but you'll be amazed how few there are. And one of the best things was reading that and seeing Tormore's in there, because from day one they were trying to push it. And in a way, it's quite sad that post-Allied, well, obviously during the 90s it was hard for everybody. But post-Allied with Chivas, it kind of got dropped completely. The 12-year-old got discontinued, and it was only a single malt in France. Really, that 16 was for the French market. And it's not sad in a way, because look, I think Chivas did a good job of running the distillery, and a lot of the stock we bought was good quality. The spirit's good quality. They made some changes that were pretty good too, but it's only sad because the intention in the building is there, and the philosopher in me just I love intention, right? I work in an industry that largely it has nothing to do with intention. Scotch is unintentional, right? Scotch is opportunism. That is what it is. Like we
product of a series of happy accidents, right?
Yeah. And whereas Tormore is an example of intentional whiskey and Scotch whiskey. Intentional whiskey for me is almost a Japanese product, and to find a building like Tormore, you can say, well, actually, these guys were clearly mental, but they did it in the 50s. So
yeah, that is incredible. That is, and it's almost. You say that it was in the 1983 Schweppes book. In 1983, it would have been, I suspect, this bottle that would have been the example, right? This is the famous long-necked grenade. I think they called it that because of this kind of textured, checkered, quilted, almost textured glass, and obviously the long neck at the top. This is mostly sold in Italy. I think this is clearly an Italian import this bottle that I have here with the tax stamp on the top. There's a barcode on the back, but it's a 75 CL, which suggests mid-80s, this one. I have to confess, this is not a particularly good quality thing. It's not to suggest they weren't making good quality stuff back then, but this is, you never know how this has been stored over the years or whatever.
To be fair, they probably weren't. They swapped out the condensers in the 70s for stainless steel, which is an odd choice given everything else at the distillery is like how much copper can we throw at it. So obviously it was a cost saving idea. And spirit, I mean, we're very limited on spirit from that period, but the spirit we've tried isn't ideal. But they swapped back
copper out for stainless steel.
Yeah. So Tormore today and Tormore when it was opened was very much about how much copper you can stick in the process. So we've got giant purifiers, and those purifiers have been in the distillery since day one. They've got big copper plates in. The whole idea is give yourself as much copper contact to refine the spirit. But obviously at some point I can only assume it was thought of as a kind of these will last longer situation.
Yeah.
And then that will have affected spirit flavour. But Tormore's not alone in that. Most distilleries go through these periods of change.
Yeah. It's taken us a long time to work out what the perfect balance for each of these places are. Absolutely. Sorry, Michael Wood is saying, Roy, please tell Ollie he's been very interesting, loving the discussion. And Inverurie Whiskey, thank you, Michael. Inverurie Whiskey Shop, that's Mike. The cream sherry cask was my favourite. Love it. Okay, thank you, Mike. The only one that I wasn't able to secure. The idea that this was the most used maturation cask for the golden era. But today we strive for PX or Oloroso. It's funny how it's a fickle thing and it's very fashion orientated at times as well. John Ginger Genius is saying, I love these guest vPubs and fascinating stories of how people stumble into whiskey. Fantastic. John, it's great to have you here listening in. And Falsgraf Klaus in Germany, good to see you, buddy. But that switch shows the 70s. They really went to being a blend whiskey. That's absolutely true. I've got a dram that's come in from Jimmy as well. I don't want to miss that. He's saying, is naming the Nass whiskey timeless a philosophy hangover? Perhaps. Did you get to name it?
Well, I'm in the meeting. There's not that many of us in the company. No, I mean there are. I'm sure that if we employed some clever marketeers, or any marketeers, I'm sure there'd be a good reason for it. Quite like the name. We've got a lovely clock. If you ever come to Tormore, if we've turned it on, it's quite an amazing thing. So we've got this clock. It strikes, it plays a different Scottish tune every 15 minutes.
And the reason it's turned off is because that's
really loud. Yeah, really, really loud. I live at the distillery at the moment, and where I am right now, this is my office, which is next door to my house, and you can quite clearly hear it here. I will say I love it. I absolutely adore it. I'm the one saying, can we turn it back on all the time? Maybe some of my neighbours don't agree.
Don't agree.
But it's my favourite thing to watch. I'll have the kids down. We go and they ride their bike. My daughter rides a bike. She was learning this year. Down at the front of the distillery because it's flat, straight. And you see people pull up on the weekend to take pictures. And my favourite thing in the summer is watching them pull up, take pictures, and the clock going off, and they're all going like, Jesus Christ, like, what? Yeah, you don't get that everywhere.
I've not heard it. I've never heard it. I've heard about it. I have been one of those punters that stopped taking photos. It's a treacherous place to stop, actually, but it's possible to do it. You can stop a wee bit along from the distillery and walk along the road and the mud and the grass and things.
I implore anyone, like, turn in, like, just turn in. We won't tell you to go away. Do it safely. We just watch you all, like, pulling up on the A95 going, one of them's going to get hit by a lorry.
But the thing is, Tormore Distillery has always been like this beacon of welcome to Speyside. Yeah. You know, okay, there are a few distilleries before you. We've got, I think, down closer towards Granton, you've got the Cairn now. En route, you've got hidden distilleries like Balmainach and things like that that'll do a gin tour. But when you hit Tormore, you're in Speyside. that big building, that completely unique green and white shock of a building, right? That doesn't look like any other distillery, maybe on the planet, is like now you're in whiskey country. That's what Tormore signals for me.
I obviously would agree, but I think one of the funny things is it's almost also geographically true. I think everyone would associate Speyside most with Murray rather than Highland. We are the border. Like, this is the border right here. It's where Highland finishes, Murray starts. So Whiskey Trail starts at our corner. You don't see any signs before then. So yeah, it definitely feels that way. And I think the building is incredibly striking. There's the worky bits of me, right? So I'm sitting on Facebook and an advert comes up for Glengoyne. It says probably Scotland's most beautiful distillery, and all I want to do is write, no, it's not. No, it's not. Not even.
I wouldn't. Yeah. The use of the word probably there is prudent, because I think Glengoyne is gorgeous. I think it's very pretty. I love the way it's snug in the bottom of Dumgoyne Hill, right? It's just the backdrop of the waterfall and the hill and things. But Tormore is, I'll go further than to say it's striking. I think it's unforgettable. I don't think you would look at that building and say, okay, you're always going to look at it and know exactly the next time you see it, you've seen it before. Even if you're not into whiskey or interested in whiskey, you probably register why it exists and why it looks like that. And maybe you might frame it as that all distilleries look in such a way, which would be a big mistake, because it does not. We've not even got to your Permashelf yet here. It's me. It's always my fault. Ollie, Inverary Whisky Shop Mike is saying, please ask Ollie to tell us the story of how they ended up with all the rum from the Royal Navy in their warehouse at Tormore. I think that we're going to be getting into storytelling tonight. That's one to put a wee pin in, make a wee note for that. Absolutely. Hjalpin, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name, but it's the first time I've welcomed you in. Tormore is to the Highlands what Glengoyne is to the Lowlands. That's a very nice way of putting it. They don't look similar, but they do kind of, it's almost this kind of, you're traveling into whiskey country. The most awkwardly beautiful in Scotland, says Pedro. I would say no. For me, Bunnahabhain is the most awkwardly beautiful, beautifully ugly Bunnahabhain. I think objectively, Tormore, I would say, is appreciably an architectural achievement. I don't know, I'm not really versed in these things, but it's like I say, it's unforgettable. You wouldn't easily forget that building. Just having a look at Google Earth, says Klaus. Superb. Those warehouses a bit down the road are part of Tormore, I guess. I would imagine he's found the warehouses on the way there. And Peter is saying only 1 hour in and the first whiskey is still to be revealed. Must be the vPub. We're right on form, Frank. Thanks for pointing it out. Sandy McDonald is here as well. Please ask Oliver, is Tormore going to be open to the public? I think we'll get to that. Let's get to that over the Permashelf, shall we? Please, Ollie. I'm sorry. I know that we like to, we shackle ourselves with these categories. I don't really think that we need these things, but we shall go. We'll go with it. The reason that I put these things in here is because I want to get under the skin of the guest and work out what makes them tick. You understand the concept of a Permashelf, right?
I do. Yeah, I do. When you sent it to me, I think I sent you a message.
Thank you for this. It's lovely. I suspect there's more wood interaction in it. That's what's going to come out.
Yeah, slightly. Yeah. So I promise the rest of the whiskies are not all work ones. I put
Are you on brand for a Permashelf pick?
I'm on brand, but I'm on brand for a very not particularly worky reason. So I put Port Askaig 8. The first thing is I don't have a Permashelf, right? It's not how I drink. It's not how I buy.
Of course.
I don't. I'm very lucky in my work. Obviously, I can. If I just need a whiskey to drink, I'm never running out. I now have keys to a warehouse of 60,000 casks, so it's unlikely that I ever think, oh, I need to keep a bottle in. I have a lot of bottles open. I obsessively buy whiskey still. I try to stop every now and again. I do that thing which we all do, where you say, I won't buy any whiskey for a month, or I won't buy any whiskey for 2 months. And it tends to be the month that you go, well, yeah, I can pass that up. And that was interesting.
That's right. Yeah.
The way I open whiskey, I tend to wait. So I tend to wait until I've got someone around, and then I'll open 4 or 5 things. So I'll end up with, maybe by the end of the year, I'll end up with 25 things open, and then I'm drinking them down until I've only got half a dozen, and then I start to get friends around just so I can open stuff up again. And I like to open bottles that have stories. I like to open. So I've got, stuff like that. The last bottle I bought until today was the new Long Row 100 proof. I walked into a shop in Oban and they had it on the shelf, and I went, "I just buy that?" And they went, "Yeah." I went, I'll have that then. and I know full well I won't open it now, not because it's not interesting now. I'm sure it's very good, but because I've got a back catalogue of about 7 bottles of Long Row 18. Because if I had to choose a Permashelf bottle, it'd probably be that. But I don't have one open now. I do have 7 in the cupboard just in case.
And you'd also be nominating a product that's not going to be available for the foreseeable future. So
right. So when I was looking at it, I was like, okay, what do I always have open distillery wise? Like what is always on my shelf? So Caligula is, I pretty much always have Caligula, and Caligula appears twice tonight because I genuinely think it's the best made spirit. Yes, I think we do a great job at Tormore. I love Ardnahoe. I could go through the list of people who make spirit that do a great job, but Caligula is consistent, it's beautiful, and I'll never get bored of it. So, but I don't buy Caligula 12-year-old. It is chill filtered and the strength is too low, and I think there's better expressions of it. Currently at home, the Caligula I've got open is a mystery malt that I got from Thompson Brothers in the first vat. So Port Askaig 8, which is what I'm putting in, because you can buy this all the time.
Hold it up to the camera there. And while you're talking, I can hear you. I'm going to grab it.
Okay. So Port Askaig 8, you can buy all the time. It is non-chill filtered. It's 45.8%, 46% in real money. And I hope, what we're trying to do is create a really accessible version of Caligula. I mean, it's Caligula with our wood policy put on it, and but I hope it kind of steers you right there. We've tried to use a bit of PX and we use a bit of new wood and bourbon and refill. First of all, bourbon and refill, so it's 4 casks. And the idea was always to build it up to make it kind of full, approachable, and drinkable. And I would argue that Caligula, when it's bottled well, it's really hard to bottle it badly, to be fair. But when it's bottled well, it is the ultimate kind of go-to Islay whiskey. It's the ultimate go-to whiskey. It's one of the few whiskies you could get almost anyone into Islay through. Like, it is a gateway drug. Like, you get, I don't really like smoky whiskey. Yeah, come try some Caligula. And by the end of the night, actually, that's really good. I spend a lot of time living in Speyside doing that. Right, that's my new job, is trying to get people in Speyside to drink smoky stuff. And I
remember about a decade ago being at a tasting hosted by Sukinder, and Arthur was there, Arthur Motley, and he was co-presenting a dram, and it was Arthur that said, I think it was the first time I heard it said anyway, I credit it to Arthur, it's almost what you said there, right? It's almost impossible to screw up Caligula. Almost manage it, right? So
we always say if you when we were at the shop and we used to buy a lot, if we ever came across an independent bottle who bought the bag Caligula, you kind of feel like the key should get taken away. Hand all the cast over. You're clearly not a responsible adult. Go somewhere else. So I put this in the Permashelf, but it is more kind of a representation, if that makes sense.
Well, that Port Askaig 8-year-old is probably 45 quid from memory, 50 quid, something like that. I think it's 48% ABV. I don't want. I can't look at this bottle because I went for the 8-year-old, but this was in front, and I picked it up instead. So, so
It's
yeah,
45.6%. So it's 46%.
40. Okay, is good as
45.8. Sorry, 45.8.
45.8. And it's obviously you're not chill filtering it. You're keeping it, yeah. And you're obviously, we don't need to even talk about whether you're using colouring or not because you would never. But it's
mainly because I'm cheap. It costs money. I'm not spending money on that.
Yeah, it costs money to colour. Yeah, of course it does. Not just the fact that there's an ingredient, but the process involved in adding the colour, all of that stuff. But what I will say is that we have seen a significant change in whiskey over the last 15 years. Whiskey's never static. It's always going to be changing. But we've seen a huge crest of, forgive me for just broad brushing it by saying overselling. I'm not suggesting that anybody at Elixir or any of the brands or whatever were overselling, but I want to commend you on the Port Askaig because it always was available at an affordable drinking price. You had the non-age statement for a while as well, didn't you?
Well, we had 100 proof, which was 57.1% without an age statement. It was really 7 to 10. We kind of blended all the stock in. We are bringing that back this year. So we had to take it off basically because it was a choice, you know. We were using Kalila, we were using that stock across Port Askaig 8, obviously. We were also using it in Elements of Islay. And so there was a point where we're like, okay, something's got to give. So we swapped 100 proof out and we put a kind of batch cask strength thing in, which allowed us the freedom to move between cask types. But this year, not just because of the market, but also because we started filling our own stock for Kalila in 2015. So we're now at the point where that 2015, 2016, 2017 new fill has been in our wood all the time. We're really happy with them. We've got good quantity. So we're going to bring 100 proof back this year.
Excellent. So it's interesting when you talk about in our wood, and I think it's something to dwell on for a second because most people understand the idea of cask trading. Most people understand the idea of an independent bottler sourcing casks, either from wherever they source it from producers, from brokers, wherever it may be, and then deciding when it's ready to bottle and then bottling it. But there's also another thing where you have your own casks, and you don't send the cask to the distillery to get filled necessarily, but you might buy IBCs or tankers of spirit and fill your own wood. Is that correct?
Yeah, pretty much.
So you're doing that at the point of its production. So for the producer, that's advantageous because they're not storing it. They're not having to worry about cask purchasing and management of casks and wood and all the rest of it. They're just selling bulk liquid as it's produced for straight cash, correct?
Yeah, pretty much. And it allows them, the power is they can turn the stills on and they can turn them off. So if there's still customer, it means that if you've got capacity, you can sell it. So it's good income for them. So obviously financially advantageous because it's cheaper to you, like they're selling you make prices, it's cheap. But the thing with buying anything young that I'm not, unless you really want to, I'm not going to go into the rights and wrongs of cask investment. But the reality is,
not tonight, Ollie, please.
when you fill a new make, whether you're an individual or whether you're a company, what you're doing is taking a risk, right? So it's also true if you buy mature, but the longer you're holding that cask, the longer your risk of it turning up empty is. Does that make sense? So
yeah, absolutely.
But we do both. We do everything. So, independent bottlers range. You've got Gordon MacPhail that only ever buy new fill, and they only ever fill their own wood. And one of the things we've got here, I've got records of the sales sheets to Gordon MacPhail going back 50 years. It's incredible. Like
Tormore selling to G&M, of course.
Not just Tormore as well. We had when they were buying from Allied, so I can see how much Ardbeg they were filling. It's crazy. It's absolutely
wow.
And so doing that, which is what we do with some makes like Kalila, gives you this power. One, cheaper up front. Obviously, you're investing for longer. Two, wood policy. So it is now your full maturation, which I think is probably the biggest thing you get. That security of knowledge of what you put it into. But the flip side, if you're not buying mature, like G&M don't buy mature, whereas say Adelphi pretty much only buy mature. If you're only buying mature, you as the market, like right now, the market's pretty open. You get access to lots of cherries, lots of things that are absolutely amazing, and you only have to buy one or two. You have to buy what you need.
Yep.
Whereas if you have no idea. You're buying 30,000 litres of whiskey for something, thinking it's going to be great in 10 years' time. Maybe the market's not there anymore.
Yeah. But I think that's where people with the patience and the capacity, the foresight, maybe the financial backing of somebody like Andrew Symington, signatory, they've been able to do very, very well over the decades, right? And
yeah, I mean, Andrew's done a bit of everything. Much like us, we're very similar.
Yeah. Askaig 8, Chilton Almeida, Henrik Schmidt is saying, also had this as a favourite too. So I'd forgotten that Chilton picked Port Askaig 8 as well. No doubt you didn't research that either. Quite amazing. Port Askaig cask strength has recently appeared here. Can you ask Ollie if that would be the new bottling or something from the past? Gene Kelly is in the US. And Greg in Paris is saying, great news, Ollie. I love it. So the cask strength version of Port Askaig has just appeared in the States. That you can't really know, can you?
Well, it will either be batch 1 or batch 2. We've only done 2 batches.
And it would have been in this branding rather than the white.
Yeah, it would have been in that branding. And it will say on the front label. So it will say what casks are in, what cask styles are in it. So if it's batch 1, it's made up of basically 2 like bourbon barrels and refill. And batch 2 is got large lumps of sherry. There's 4 different casks in it. Batch 2 is really dark, quite heavy, very, very popular.
So if it's light, Gene, it's batch 1. And if it's batch 2, it's going to be dark.
Yeah, pretty much.
And if it's a lighter label, right? Well, you didn't have anything called cask strength, did you?
We did in 2000, like at the very start. So the very first whiskey bottled for Port Askaig was Port Askaig cask strength. Port Askaig cask strength, Port Askaig 17, Port Askaig 25. I mean, what? Like, I love the idea that in 2009 you could just be like, yeah, I just bottled 25 year old. Yeah, forgot loads of that. But it was just such a different world. And that 100 proof only came into being because they changed the law in 2013, I think it was. There was an amendment to the Scottish Whisky Guidance saying that if the label says cask strength, it has to be the strength that came out of cask, which obviously sounds perfectly normal and sensible. It's a right pain in the ass to do, right? So because you can't label it until you've battered it. So you can't print the labels, whereas if you
don't know what the ABV is going to be.
Yeah, so we actually created 100 proof just to get around that. So most of the time when we were doing cask strength, it was coming out about 57, 58%. So like, well, 57.1 is safe. So normally we're only reducing by like 0.5%. Yeah. But we could pre-print the labels and we knew where we were. And I always like the story of the proof system. I think it's a brilliant story.
I mean, it's a very, very popular. In fact, 57.1 is so popular today that if you see a natural cask strength of 57.1, people are suspicious that it's been adjusted to be 100 proof, right? Peter is saying Port Askaig 100 proof has been my Permashelf for quite some time. Of course it has. Pete Head, that's Frank in the Netherlands, the big guy. He's saying, great, it makes its return. The historical value of this stream for nerds is incredible, Aquavite, says Klaus in Germany. A good opportunity as any to pour a Port Askaig 12-year-old Spring Edition 2020, Aquavite, says Danny Hebbington. Danny is also up. He's a neighbour of yours. He's up in Speyside. It's great to have you in, Danny, and it's a perfect on-theme one to pour. Gene Kelly saying, thanks, Roy, you're welcome, Gene. And Christian Jensen, it's in Port Askaig, 17 in the glass. Love this stuff. I hope you're having the same kind of realization as me, Christian, that something that's 50.5% ABV, full on peat, can also be ridiculously elegant. Yuri is saying, I've got an example of a terribly bottled Caol Ila from Spirit of Scotland, single cask. Oh, he's naming and shaming. It's a first fill sherry butt. Just even don't know what to do with that bottle, not enjoying it at all. Yuri, is it because of the sherry? Maybe. Just before we go on, the Permashelf picks from the community. The Whisky Vault picked Loch Lomond 12, it says Permashelf, 46%. I think that's a great call. Thanks for that, Whisky Vault. Andy Hells is gone for Craigellachie 13, Kilkerran 12 for Jimmy Legg, who's in tonight, of course. Jeffrey Bangers, who usually picks it up on the replay, picked a Craigellachie 13 as well, so we've got 2 for Craigellachie. Mark Wakefield went for Glencadam 10. What a peach of a Permashelf. It's definitely one of mine. I think it always will be, as long as it stays as good as it is, Mark. And Menno in Belgium also picked Glencadam 10, so 2 Craigellachie 13s, 2 Glencadam 10s. An interesting Kilkerran 12 pick and a Loch Lomond 12. That's the community picks. Alistair Gray saying that Port Askaig 17 is incredible. Stunning whiskey. I remember buying 2 bottles from Michael at IWS. I think I've had this a couple of years now, Ollie. This 17 was 2 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah.
Falsgraph is saying, fascinating. The Whisky Vault just brought a video out on proof today, but US law is different from British. Of course it is. Famously, last week I talked about the fact that Macallan has put out 110 proof bottling, but it's 55% ABV. It's so frustrating. Anyway, we're not going to talk about that.
We do the same in the States. So Port Askaig 100 proof is Port Askaig 110 in the US at 55%.
Okay.
Because if you did 57.1, it would really confuse them to have everybody in the US. So we went with 55, and it drinks really well at 55, so it's okay.
Everything drinks very, very well at 55. It's my everybody knows it's my personal fetish ABV. So you're not going to get any argument from me on the choice of but the choice of description for it. If you launch a product as 100 proof and then you need to adapt it to the 110 proof for the States, there's a story there. There's a chronology of events and decisions, right? But if you launch with 110 proof, there's never been a Scotch launched with such because it's sold in the UK with 110 proof at 55% ABV.
Yeah, that's very confusing.
That's wrong. That's just, it's not wrong. It frustrates me.
Well, it might be wrong. I'd have to have a look at the regs. So it'd be quite interesting because trading standards, I mean, I realise it's not, I don't know. It's interesting because
it'd be interesting to see if imperial measurements even are factored into trading standards these days. Let me grab it for you, Ollie, once more. I'm not going to walk too far. The vPub isn't very, very big. I can just walk over, and I think you've probably seen this bottle, have you?
I have not, no. I don't. Okay. I don't know this very closely. I drive past them every day, but I just don't.
This isn't my bottle. This is from a friend. It's actually very good whiskey, I have to be honest. When things are good, they're just good. But it's 55% ABV, as you see, but it's labelled as 110 proof. Currently a Whisky Shop exclusive, but it's obviously it'll open up. Interestingly, in the States where it's launched, I've been getting a lot of feedback to suggest that it's $100 in that ballpark. So they're getting a much better price for it in the States. If you do discover that there's anything in trading standards or whatever, that would be interesting. It's a wee bit frustrating because if I look at a Scotch whisky label and I see 110 proof, I'm immediately curious because I'm like, okay, that's what is that, 60% ABV or something, In fact, it's going to be more because 60% is 105, right?
It'd be near nigh impossible, frankly.
Yeah, nearly impossible. Doodle Dramats Arnie saying, to the theme, I poured myself this Tormore Blueprint bourbon cask. It's so lovely already that I dare to dream of what becomes of it when Elixir is really peaching up the spirit. Peaching up. So in Arnie, we've got a real student. He's obviously worked out that Tormore's famous for kind of stone fruits and orchard fruits. Ryan Sutherland, that's Ryan from 8 Doors. Ryan, good to see you in, buddy. Bring back the fluid ounces. Bring back the fluid ounces. Ryan's in his 20s, right? Dan DVDW saying, I don't fully agree, Roy. Some whiskies are harsh and alcoholic, even at 40%, while others have a perfectly integrated ABV at over 60%. Oh no, I think we do agree, Dan. So whatever I've said that makes you think we don't agree, I would agree with you completely on that statement. Pedro's saying it was launched to be a USA exclusive. It flopped and they had to release on unplanned markets. I would be surprised if that was the case because the packaging is obviously going to be slightly different. If it was a USA exclusive, they would probably go for 750ml bottle. I don't know, maybe.
Not now. There's a reason. I mean, I don't know where Macallan are, but certainly once the US changed the law that you could bottle in 700s, I think most people as quickly as possible, because it costs you to run the 2 molds. So, your unit, this is very sad, Royce, you can tell me to shut up, but basically every time you run a glass, if you're bespoke, you're running 25,000 units. So if your US market is only turning over, well, depending on how quickly you're going through stock, obviously, but you want to get rid of that barrier as quickly as possible. So you want to move to 700s so that everything's the same. Then you only got one bottle. So
as soon as you've used up the glass that you've purchased or whatever, or we've brought a product naturally to an end, you'd switch it up. Absolutely. It makes sense. Over 60% Caribbean whiskey, says Klaus, where the angels drink water and strength increases with maturation. The percentage goes up, but there's bugger all liquid left, right? There's evaporation is still evaporation. Something is taking the volume away. Ollie, let's move on to number 2, crowd pleaser. The concept of a crowd pleaser. Oh, you've reached for that.
I put them all behind me because it was easier.
We can be friends. We can be friends. I know what you're going to bring up for the crowd pleaser. That's a wonderful pick. So we're talking about an environment where you're going to walk in, and what's amazing about this is you're reaching for products that's on your shelf. So we're not asking you to kind of nominate things that's out in the ether. This is genuinely things that you're buying. Show us what you've picked there, Ollie. A neighbour of yours. In fact, a quick run in the car. You'd be there in about 15 minutes, right?
My son goes to school there, so I go there every day.
Wow. So Craigellachie, 17, 46% from memory, right?
It is indeed. I mean, I think you and I before the call were chatting. I've got a soft spot for Ardnahoe as well, which is a relatively recent thing.
Yeah.
I was laughing. I hate awards, right? I think awards are crooked. Just generally, not yours, but just in general, like the big ones, all crooked. And the People Awards, I think, are ridiculous. But to be fair, Stephanie McLeod is clearly a shit hot blender, right? So she makes great whiskey. Like, you can't knock it.
Everything that she's done earnestly, and I'm very careful with my language there, has been marvelous. I'm talking Altmore. I'm talking Craigellachie. I think that it's a shame when we see Aberfeldies at 40, unfortunately. But the Aberfeldies that come out higher ABV, sometimes really nice ABV, have been resplendent. And I suspect it's also Stephanie's hand that's involved. Yeah, you talk about awards there. Can I give a wee shout out to Polly here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, they're not all shit. That one's obviously well worthwhile.
Yeah. Polly's award. So, Polly Logan I met Polly Logan for the briefest of moments back in 20. I don't know when Macallan opened its doors. The new distillery would have been 2018, maybe. Yeah. But so it would be wonderful to meet her again. I know that she was ex-Diageo before Macallan. Maybe you guys headhunted Polly. I don't know if that happened or if it was serendipitous, but she won. Polly won Distillery Manager of the Year. Would that be correct?
She did for Whisky Mag.
Yeah.
I think that was for my point of view, and that we are a small team, right? There's not loads of us. I think it was really important, mainly because quite often those awards are given to places with visitor centres where there's a focus on the brand. But the application we put in was pretty simple. We pointed out that Polly Logan started with us in 2023, just after we took over. She took the distillery from having 5 operators. We now employ 26 people in Speyside. I mean, that's pretty wild for Speyside. We don't have a VC, right? So 26 people without a visitor centre. So we're a big employer. She runs all those teams. She's changed the spirit, not a lot, but she's tweaked it. She's been respectful to what we had. I'm immensely lucky because, as you said, she was at Macallan. She was a blender at Macallan. She was distillery manager for Diageo and Tomatin before that. She also did cask selection for Tomatin. So I get to work with someone on a day-to-day basis who can help me with every element of my job.
Superb.
As well as my spirit. So yeah, if anyone deserved that award, it's 100% Ollie Logan. Yeah, and hopefully she'll win the world award as well in March, but we'll see.
Maybe one day we can, because I do get the impression that she's also pretty passionate about the end product as well as what she's actually making. Maybe one day we can encourage her behind the bar at the vPub. That would be very cool. So why have you?
You need more than 3 hours.
There's the vPub. The timeline is just a suggestion. Don't worry about it. Nobody should worry about it. That's the thing about it, is that people say, you know, Roy, the vPub it can be so long. It can be so long. So you don't need to just take half an hour. You know, go off and then pick it. It's podcast style, right? It's this content is not intended to be clipped or forced into a specific anyway. Why did you select that? I know why you selected it. I know people that are fans of the vPub will have heard me evangelizing about that bottle of 17-year-old for a long time now. But why did Ollie Chilton pick that tonight for the crowd pleaser?
So when Craigellachie relaunched and they did the 13 and 17 and 21, I remember coming out and I tried the 13. I thought, that's a nice whiskey. I kind of feel like quite often it's almost it's ignored whiskey by enthusiasts. I think they've kind of quite, you know, it's a big company. Bacardi's a big company. They want to sell volume of single malt. So sometimes I think they don't know where they are. But then to the same degree, their ambassador team's amazing. Incredibly knowledgeable guys. So I was very lucky. I've been around Craigellachie a couple of times. I've got a friend who works there, assistant manager there. And so I've been around with her, and I've been around with the ambassador team as well, just for interest's sake. And I actually opened this bottle Christmas time. I have had it before in a bar a couple of times, not opened a bottle before. And I opened it, and it's not just that I was surprised, because Craigellachie is a good whiskey, and if it's well looked after, you know, it should be good. But I was actually properly blown away, to the extent that I was messaging Billy Abbott going, fuck me, Craigellachie 17 is good. It's drinking really well. Because, you know, bottles change, right? So I've spent so much of my life dealing with bottled product, with selling bottled product, that I can tell you there's no such thing as a consistent, like, even a consistent brand. It's not, it doesn't really
Malt does not want to play the consistent game. We know this.
No. So I was trying this, and I was absolutely flabbergasted. So I'm messaging all my friends, and they're like, God, yeah, it's drinking so well. So well. So when I saw the category, I thought to myself, well, this is the kind of thing I could give to a geek or an enthusiast, and they would, if they've not had it recently, actually be shocked and go, that's really special. To the same extent, it's the kind of whiskey I'll give to my dad, who loves whiskey, but he's not an enthusiast, right? He's just a drinker. He just enjoys a whiskey, and he would love this. He would sit and we'd chat about it over a few drams and by the fire. So I feel like it is the whiskey that fits that gap. It's heavy, it's rich, and it's voluptuous. There is it's not overbearing. You know, like Glendronach 15 can be almost overbearing. You can feel like you have to settle in. This is a wild ride. This feels like something you would just sit with a glass and quite happily chat through, mellow. But at the same time, every now and again, you just go, oh God, that's actually really quite good.
I think it's a perfect pick. I'm almost frustrated. I mean, it did. There was a point in its life that it was pricey for a 17-year-old compared to its peers. and I think that put off a lot of people like me that wanted to kind of judge it based on label specs rather than how it was drinking. But the last couple of years I've evangelized heavily about Craigellachie 17. I think it's a peach of a pick. Hillswood is saying, right up my street, such a super fan. Although John Ginger Genius is saying, am I the only barfly that didn't connect with the Craig 17? We've got work to do, John. Derek McGinner is saying, can I pick Craigellachie 17 for all 5 categories? I think that's interesting. I mean, it's very interchangeable. It's absolutely, Derek. It's it's tongue in cheek what you're saying, but you're spot on. Ryan Sutherland is saying, Polly is a star. Absolutely. Glad Craigellachie is relatively ignored. It means there's more for Hellswood, says Andy. Good to see you, Andy. I hope you've not worked too hard tonight, buddy. Big Jimmy Jazz in the States. Good to see you, big guy. Saying really enjoying the Elixir Macbeth Clynelish 14 Aquavitae. Certainly would call it a crowd pleaser. Another one of the in-house products that we're touching upon tonight. And Whisky Weekend Drama saying, Craigellachie 17, yes, got to get my bottle then. Opened it with friends last month. Popular pick, a very popular pick, and popular around here as well. In fact, I would suggest that Craigellachie 17, while it's expensive and it's quite a self-indulgent thing as well, it's so good that it's still £100 plus here. I mean, it's still 110 maybe, but it's so good that if you are in such a position to be able to pick up such a bottle to keep for those special occasions, I would suggest it could potentially be argued to be a Permashelf as well, as Derek is saying it could be for all the categories. And Billy Bennett is saying, I think my crowd pleaser would be a Bladnoch 19. Ooh, I wonder which one that is. It's not one that I've tried, Billy. Very interesting pick as well. If we talk about batch variation in malt whiskey, I suspect if you're enjoying that Bladnoch, snap it up. Because it's one of my most infamously, in my experience, batch-driven products. Fantastic, Ollie. A really good pick. I think it's a peach. I'm going to motor through these, not because I want to force the discussion or whatever. I just want the categories out of the way. I also don't want to force you to drink too quickly either, but...
Sorry, I've got glass for everything.
Good. Me too. The Decadent pour, you know where we're going with this, don't you? I mean, it's not just because you're in Speyside and, I'm out in east of Glasgow and sometimes we find ourselves on our own far too often. No, it's about the fact that sometimes, whiskey it lends itself wonderfully to building connection, to sharing, community, a very convivial product. But if we're honest, when we have the moment and the mind and the mood to sit on our own with a dram, it can literally remind you of why you fell in love with the thing in the first place. Because you're not having to chitty chat. You're not having to talk about tasting notes or what you're getting or how much it costs or anything. You're just in the glass. And that's what I mean by a decadent pour.
So I chose to do this pick up room. One, it's the end of this bottle. I opened it for my birthday, my 40th birthday, which is now a little while ago. So it needs finishing up. I definitely think it's decadent in terms of its profile and everything about it. I could sound really bad. I drink alone a lot, right? Because I live on the hill in the middle of bloody nowhere, and although I'm very lucky in living in Speyside with the pubs and the bars around me, the Highlander Inn, I consider to be my local. That is a pal of mine for many years, not just since I moved here. However, it's a car drive away, right? So I've got organised taxi. So quite often I'll be sitting at home having a dram. I also, because I have to write a lot of tasting notes and be critical about whiskey all the time, when I'm drinking alone, your description is pretty much where I am, where I try to be most of the time. I rarely sit down and go, I'm going to write something about this or think about it. I want stuff that is just going to envelop me whole so that I'm not at work, but I'm still doing the thing I care about. That makes sense. So I've done a Glenlossie. Glenlossie 1984, 25-year-old, bottled by Signature.
Oh, bring that up to the camera, please. Let's see.
Bottled in
A 1984.
Yeah.
Wow, 25-year-old. So I'm trying to do maths in my head. So that would have been 2009, 2010 bottling.
2010. 59%, so it's punchy on the strength as well.
Yes.
I actually had two of these. I've also got another 1984 Glenlossie from Signature of their anniversary series. I'm in 1984. I'm a young man, only wee 41-year-old. And like lots of people, I buy up bottles from my vintage. It's becoming steadily more expensive, as is the way.
Yeah.
And 84 is a shit vintage, right? Because
for various reasons, yes. Yep.
Lots of places close. Wood quality tends to be pretty questionable through the 80s as well, because there's no good wood. But there are certain distilleries that in that period are special, and Glenlossie 84, particularly the Signature vintage bottlings, are phenomenal. It is full maturation in the sherry butt, which is pretty unusual for the time. I've already alluded to the fact that Signature vintage, I have a very long-standing close relationship and love of Signature vintage and Andrew. And Des and Lorraine.
You find yourself in good company, don't worry.
Yeah. They're very much part of my journey of learning. Andrew, I mean, he's hilarious. He's absolutely hilarious. I couldn't believe he didn't swear even nearly as much in your chat. I was flabbergasted. That's
funny because a lot of the feedback I got is that he's quite comfortable with a swear word, and I said he's Scottish.
Yeah. That's people who don't know him. You see, because they watch that and go, "Oh, he's swearing." Like, yeah, that's not swearing. Try getting to know him.
Yeah.
But the man has. I for a long time said I think he's got the best stock in Scotland, and I found it really funny once he started doing the 100 proof range. What was that last year? It was almost like, a man who's been watching on the sidelines quietly for years, who then just decides he can flex his muscles and everyone.
We've now had the 100 proof series for just over or just 2 years now, Ollie. 2 years, yeah.
But yeah, so I bought this bottle. I bought it in the shop at Signatory. Andrew looked after me, so I didn't pay for retail at the time, which is good because I couldn't afford it at the time. And I used to try and buy 84s at auction. So I had, for my birthday, I opened a Tormore 84, which was from Cadenheads, bottled by Mark Watt, another really good pal of mine. I opened this. I opened some Armagnac, and I opened some Kalila, and because these were kind of my happy places for that vintage. And it is something I originally thought I would open all these bottles and share them with people, and in the end, I saw almost no one on my 40th, and then I opened all the bottles on my own, and I gave no shit. So I just drank them all. I've drunk almost this entire bottle without showing.
A perfect decadent pour. Self-indulgence. Absolutely. I mean, I'm almost what an excellent pick as well. I'm almost jealous. I've got some of your products along to the side. I tell you what I'm going to pick. Probably one of the most under the radar malts that's out there. When you were speaking about Kalila earlier, I find this to be, well, for different reasons. I mean, I know we're getting geeky now, but round about the millennium, it changed how it produces whiskey. And we did a vertical tasting of this distillery one time, tasting pre-mash filter and post-mash filter. So you know what distillery I'm talking about, right? We're talking about, and this is one of your products, Ollie. This is a Teaninich, 48% ABV. This is parcel number 5, Single Malts of Scotland release. It's a darling distillery for me because nobody cares about it. Nobody knows how to pronounce it. Nobody knows where it is or what it's about or anything. And yet it can produce absolutely astonishing whiskies. How would you pronounce this distillery?
I'd say Teaninich, and I'm probably wrong. Teaninich, and I love the fact that it's where all the shit malt goes. I mean, that's what a fantastic distillery to have. We just need a distillery where we can shove all the shit malt and no one will know because it'll still taste good.
Well, I mean, post millennium, that's been the thing, right? Because of the mash filter, because of the way that they can process the malt, that's the idea that they can, you know, they can. By the way, shit malt. When you say shit malt, the reason that it's in it, the adjective is you're using is shit, is because of efficiency, right?
Sadly, I would look at it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily got anything to do with flavour output from said malt.
Well, yes and no, right? So I'm not a distiller, and I will clarify everything first. I'm not a distiller. If you want to really have this conversation, you chat to someone like Polly.
Yeah.
I think as geeks get really hung up on yield, and you're going to think we get hung up on yield. No. The companies are hung up on yield. No. We've become hung up on this idea that yield is bad necessarily, and if it's bad yielding, it is necessarily better, right? Because if we're getting high yields, that must be a negative, and therefore everything that's. But there's loads of things that give you shit yield, right? Which includes the fact that the barley actually isn't performing at all. Not in terms of yield, it's just not giving you any sugars. It could be mashing really badly. So there's like we were running here for a time when we first took it over, because of the way it worked at Tormore, we were filling for Chivas, and Chivas would provide the malt. And there was a period they were providing a malt varietal called Diablo, right? And Diablo is like all of them, it's an engineered malt. I mean, Golden Promise is an engineered malt before anyone tells you otherwise, right? And it was engineered for distilling. We currently use mainly Sassy, Laureate. There's a new fancy one with a really cool name called Firefox. I really want that to be good, just because it sounds cool.
Firefox.
But we were running Diablo, and everyone in Speyside was running Diablo because the way it tends to work is the maltsters are planting a crop, right? And I remember going down to Craigellachie to do a tour with Billy Abbott. It's not Billy Abbott in this chat. We were there just to do a tour, not like we paid for it during Spirit of Speyside. We didn't tell anyone we were going. And I happened to ask, as we were going round, one of the other customers said, "Oh, what malt do you use?" And they said Diablo. And I very quickly looked at the operator and I went, "How's it going?" And he went, "Oh, it's awful." And then he came running into the shop later on. He went, "One of those people works in the industry." And I was sitting there going, "Yeah, that's me." And Diablo wasn't bad in terms of our yields weren't great. The main thing is it was like fluffy. Like it was like trying to mash this kind of weird fluffy porridge. It was absolutely awful. And every distiller you'd speak to would be like, it's just terrible.
Wow.
And it's not that their yields were problematic. It's that they couldn't get throughput because it wouldn't mash properly. We actually yielded fine on it. So in the theory of yield's okay, you'd go Diablo's great, but Ollie would tell you, no, it was awful. Also, it yielded fine, maybe slightly less than we were getting off Laureate. Quality of spirit flavour was shit. We were not happy. I mean, it wasn't our spirit, so we also didn't care that much. But it wasn't. So I guess my point is, it's a far more complicated picture.
Sure, that's
If that makes sense.
And I think it's great to have these discussions at times to remind us that that's. I mean, it's just obvious. You just parse it out and think about it. You know, there's not a direct. The higher the yield, the more efficient a thing can be. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad or a negative direction for it to go in. That's far more nuanced. The devil is in the detail.
Absolutely. Tormore's a good example in that our mash tun, touch words, despite last week, we've got a full Alta mash tun that was put in 1974, and I was chatting with Georgie Crawford on Islay. I was over on Islay last week. We're talking about yields. So we look at yields slightly differently. I need to know what the expected yield is so I can work out how many casks to buy. we're not that interested in, like, I don't need anyone to hit a 420. That's like 420 litres per tonne. That's not, like, we're not, as a business, we're not financially focused on that, because that, at the end of the day, we're mainly making for single malt. So our margins are bigger, so we can cope with lower yields. On Islay, we'll be malting our own barley, so we know our yields will be lower. And we were discussing using Islay barley, and I was like, okay, so what's the difference? And it's not, well, what's the difference because it'll be poor quality, or this is going to be financially impactful. It's more, what's the difference? How many casks do I need to buy you to fill this? Yes. And I said, you know, at Tormore this week on ale yeast, etc., we're getting 410s. And she's like, yeah, but that's with your magic mash tun. And some distilleries have these things, like, we're lucky. We have a magic mash tun that no one knows why it works. Like, I cannot find you an engineer who can tell me why that is more efficient than anything else. It shouldn't be.
Wow.
It just is. It just works. And it seems to work on anything. Like, you can almost throw, even that Diablo story, Craigellachie were having to blend in other malt to operate, like, even to run it. We could run it and get a 415, and he's like, that's not possible. Well, we can. I mean, it's a pain in the ass. It doesn't work as well as we like. And it's just, it's not luck of the draw, but there's something in when they put that mash tun in, it was done in, it's run in a particular way. The guys here have been running it in the same way, certainly since Chivas took over in 2005. Alan Winchester changed a couple of things. He's clearly a fucking genius, clever man. But all these little details are what make up your whiskey. It's not as simple, like, anyone who tells you, and there are certainly people who do, that there's a recipe and it will always be right. Rubbish. Absolute rubbish. It's just not true. There's the nuances in your site. There's the nuances with the people in your site that make the biggest difference.
And the raw ingredients and the equipment and the way things are installed and the way things are, it's the nuances. I mean, that's why it's wonderful for geeks like us, because it's endless. And the discussion over it and the discovery on the back of it is also endless. Sugar Kitty, Jeff, good to see you. Saying I have the Teaninich and Tawny Port from Firkin, and that's a wonderfully full of fruits from Firkin. That'll be Mike Collings, Firkin Whisky Company. PT Dram is saying, I love Teaninich, Roy. Had some great ones from Signatory and Decadent. I'm right with you. We can be friends, PT Drammer. Graham Fraser is in. Good to see you, Graham. He's saying, sadly, Teaninich currently mothballed. I know it's always hopefully a temporary thing. Henrik Schmidt is saying Teaninich alongside Glenord and Clynelish waxy notes. Yeah, it's absolutely. I used to say Teaninich was waxy until I discovered an entire run of Teaninichs that were exactly on point with what Ollie's talking about right now, that suddenly were not as waxy. So it's almost like one of these. For a while, there were waxy qualities in certain batches and certain releases. This one, not particularly waxy tonight, but a charming, pretty, easy drinking whiskey. Lind Music is saying, here we go. Enthusiasts love these conversations. The difference in the detail is priceless. Absolutely, Lind Music, good to have you. And Billy Bennett is saying, my Decadent dram must be Bruichladdich Blackheart 11.1. Oh, you're going back in time there, Billy. Been round a wee while. No, 11.1. No, sorry, I'm thinking of 4.1. 11.1 is much more recent, I think, Billy. Glad you're enjoying it. I wonder how much Black Hearts are costing these days. Alistair Gray is saying, this is superb for us Whisky Geeks. Thank you, Oliver. I'm not going to bed. Well, it's nice to have you staying with us for a wee bit longer, Alistair. I suspect that the way the discussion's going, I don't know if we needed the categories, but we've got the categories. Maybe the categories are kind of buffer. They're like speed bumpers in a bowling alley, right? They're keeping us kind of somewhat on track. But I feel guilty when I want to stop you and drag you towards a glass, because I'm just loving the chat and the angles and the perspective. I think it sums up why I want to continue to invite people like you, Ollie, onto the vPub, because you're in this magical position where you have a foot in both lanes, because you've come into whiskey loving it. You've not lost the love of it, so you can still identify as an enthusiast, a geek, a whiskey botherer, however you self-identify. But you're also on the side of the producer. You're in the industry and you understand the challenges and the pressures and everything that's involved in you trying to almost sate the desires of your original self before you're in the position that you're in. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I won't lie, there are definitely days where I wouldn't even say days, there are months go by where you don't love it as much. Right? That's true, right? There are months where I will go through points where like I don't want a whiskey now.
Wow.
I mean, it doesn't last horrendously long. My wife would probably disagree that it's even months because she'd go, well, you still drink whiskey in all those points. But I don't obsess in the same way. I also find that you change your obsession. There's points in my career where I've been more engaged with old and rare, and I know enough to know what I want to buy now, and I know enough to recognize it pretty quick. But I don't. So there was a point in my career where I would be obsessing personally on the outside about stuff like I want to try as many Longmorn 1972s and Longmorn 1971, Longmorn 1969s because this period is like grapefruit central and that's what I want. Whereas right now in my career, that's less. I deal with it less. I am actually one of the things I'm spending a lot more time with is standard bottles. I spend a lot more time looking at standard bottles. I'm a lot more interested, possibly because it's professional, about how they're making it. How do you make it good? How do you make it good quality?
Yeah.
And I've learned over the years that you can get caught. I was chatting with another pal who does podcasts and stuff last night. He's obsessed with Ardnahoe. Ardnahoe started releasing whiskey. I actually phoned Conor McKenzie and said, "How many releases are you looking at?" Because I was deep at that point, right? I was already 5 bottles in, 6 bottles in. I was like, "This is a lot of buying, and I can't drink it all." And he's like, "Yeah, you just need to stop now. You need to stop before this gets out of hand." I mean, I still buy bottles. But
is that a flavour chase or is that a Pokemon thing? Got to have them all.
A little bit of a Pokemon thing more than the flavour chase. My obsession with flavour more comes out with my drinking at night. I worked out recently that I don't feel hungry ever, but I eat a lot. And it's the same with drinking. I hate getting drunk. I'm not interested in that. What I find really difficult is not reaching for the next thing to try. I want to try something, a new flavour, new something.
It's often something that I've found as well, that you're constantly battling the effect of alcohol because you're enjoying the flavour so much.
Yeah,
so you're kind of finding all these hacks and ways to kind of pace and drink lots of water and festivals and events and things like that. But I agree with you. I'm always disappointed if I find myself in a position where I could look at myself and say, "You've had a bit too much." It's not, as my friend the Whiskey Rev used to say, it's not a good look. He wasn't talking about me necessarily. I'm not sure if we've ever actually been drunk together. It's interesting, but we've to suggest that we don't feel the effects of the alcohol would be disingenuous. We absolutely do, but you need to separate, I think, the enjoyment of the liquid over the effects of the liquid. And some people, I think, I didn't want to take the discussion in this direction, but we're here. So I've found over my lifetime, not just in whiskey, but some people are not predisposed to be able to do that easily. Some people, that's a challenge for them. The definition, the line, the feelings, the awareness seems to pass them by. It's interesting. I don't know if it's genetics. I don't know if it's mood. I don't know if it's age. I don't know if it's physical condition. I don't know what it is, but we all react very, very differently to it. So for you to say that statement, I don't like being drunk, it's very interesting. I hate it. I really, really dislike being drunk. I don't enjoy it at all.
Yeah.
Billy Bennett's saying, my Decadent dram must be Brooklyn. Sorry, I picked that up one. I've scrolled back up a wee bit too far, but I want to keep engaged with you guys as much as I can. This is superb for us, Whiskey Geese. Thank you. I'm not going to bear. I picked that one up as well. Let's scroll back down again to the ones that I haven't. Dorbass Whiskey is saying, I've always heard Dalhousie was Diageo's whiskey waxy backup for Glenlossie. Famously, Dalhousie is supposed to have different makes and things that they do keep track of, and one of them is apparently a waxy make. Indeed.
But you find, so on when you buy the make from Diageo, they have a code on it. I got very lucky. Obviously, I've got a few colleagues who are ex-Diageo, and they may have shared accidentally all of the makeups for every single make that Diageo makes. So Dalhousie, there's 4 technically that they can make: grassy, waxy, nutty, and then Dalhousie, which is just meaty. And when you buy the stock, you get a code, and on the code it will say a letter under, so it'll be a W, a G, or an N. And if it doesn't have any of those, then it's just meaty. And then when I've got one of the colleagues we've got here, so one of our operators, George, he's just absolutely diamond, amazing guy, been in the industry forever. He worked at Dalhousie for years. And one of the joys I have at the moment is he was there when Dalhousie started making waxy, which was 2014. Although I'd argue, having tried quite a lot of it, it's not massively waxy. 2015, much better. And I get to bring him samples because he's a distiller. Like he made the spirit, but never tried the whiskey. And it's not like Diageo are coming up to you 3 years in, going, "Well, you should try it."
Here's what you made, yeah.
So I get to take him samples of stuff that he made and be like, "What do you think?" It's not waxy yet. And he'll tell me, "Well, we did this, and this is what we changed," and it is really fascinating. I mean, I find that side. I also find that side in terms of the relationship with distillers and operators and end product. It blows my mind. We've got a guy here, Tormore, Roderick. He's been here 35, 36 years, Roderick Green. His dad was here 28, 29 years, because Tormore attracts like people to stay forever. And when we first turned up, he'd hardly tried any Tormore because it wasn't released regularly.
How would you? Yeah.
And he's a big whiskey drinker, Rod. Loves whiskey. He's, so me turning up and being like, this is the first thing I did was walk up to him like, try that, bro. Try it. He goes, what was your first job? Filling casks in 1991. All right. I'll go find some casks that you filled in 1991.
Wow. Superb. Was there a reaction?
Yeah. Well, I think the main thing that changed, the main thing between being a big company and a small company, and I've never, outside of a very brief period of doing ambassadorial work for Diageo, and even then it wasn't direct. I've never really worked for a big company, right? So I've never had that corporate world. But there's lots of security and there's consistency in it. The thing with the family companies, you have to deal with probably more stress, more change, wild ideas. But you also get a say and you can be directly involved. So all the guys on our site, I talk to all the time. I am showing them stuff we're doing all the time because I'm really proud of what they've made. I'm like, they're doing the work. It's not me. Like they've made the spirit. They put it in the casks. They're caring for it. They're the guys who are phoning me up going, this cask smells a bit sour. Can you come down and check it? So for them not to try it, from my perspective, is mental. Like, they should be part of all of it. But if you're in a big company, that's not going to happen. They get loads of benefits on that side. But what I have to give them is the benefits of being part of it. And what I get on site, at least, I get asked the question, when are we launching? Every single week, right? If you think whiskey enthusiasts are excited to try Tormore, they are nothing compared to the operators on our side who are desperate to see what they've done on the shelf.
And now you've got like 4 or 5 times as many operators than you had when you first took over in 2022 as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a lot more people, and they're deeply proud, and so they should be. They work so hard. One of the best stats I can give you is Ardbeg I was over on Islay, right? And I'm quite pally with Colin Gordon. He used to be still just
Absolutely. Lagavulin, Ardbeg.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
And I was up seeing him with Georgie. Georgie Crawford is our distillery manager at Portintruan, was also at Lagavulin, Portellen, etc., etc. And I was winding Colin up, and I was like, "Well, so how much spirit do you fill here?" He goes, "Well, we make 1 million litres a year. This is before the big expansion." It's like, "And you fill that all on site yourself?" It's like, "Oh yeah." I said, "How long does that take you?" "A year." But, all right. So how much did you fill? I said, "We filled 1 million litres." I said, "What, across the year?" I said, "Yeah, in 11 weeks."
Yeah.
Our guys hit it. Like, they work hard, and so they should be deeply proud when we release a product. And
11 weeks.
11 weeks. I mean, we had to employ masseuses to keep them going. Like, they get it. and it was also, bear in mind, this is November, December in Speyside. It was not warm. It was a lot of wet weather. It was hard work. So, yeah.
Well, make hay while the sun shines. Make whiskey while the sun is nowhere to be seen.
Absolutely, mate. It's a winter sport.
Past Whiskey saying, always heard. Sorry, I picked that up as well, Tim. I'm not doing very well with the mouse tonight. Scrolling back up. Spontaneous Google, 360 euro, says Falsgraf. I don't know what you're checking out. 360 euro. I suspect that's maybe that Glenlossie you held up there. Whiskey with Molly saying, can you ask Ollie what we can expect from Portintruan when we might see the first bottlings? It's got to come out tonight. Look, we're looking for a couple of exclusives here, Ollie. When are we going to see this Tormore? Whether it's the Timeless, the 12-year-old, the 16-year-old. When are we going to see? What's the plans for Portintruan?
Well, the hope on Tormore is to bottle the first half of the year. I would like it available in Speyside in the summer, because that's when all the shops can make some money. So from a purely selfish, personal, like, my friends own the shops here, I would like them to be able to sell our whiskey and make some money off it.
Speyside, Spirit of Speyside Festival? No.
We'll be slightly after that in terms of actual launch. There'll be some. If you come to Spirit of Speyside and you come to any of the events we're in, you will taste the liquid. It will be finished.
Okay.
But the pack's not finished, so you won't necessarily see it in the packaging. So the big launch will probably end up being September, October, which is pretty kind of standard in terms of global. So it'll be launched in France and Germany, etc. in the autumn. In terms of Portintruan, God, I haven't got close to when we release a product. Jesus Christ, that's. I mean, the reality is, you'd love to say it's 3 years after you start distilling, right? But that's not true. You don't know that. I would love to also say that I know exactly when Portintruan is going to start distilling spirit. The difficulty of what we built at Portintruan is probably the most complicated distillery in Scotland.
Oh wow! I was going to say the most complex on Islay, but you're saying, wow. That's...
Oh yeah, no, we dwarf. Yeah, the amount of people you start talking through it and they're going, "What did you do?" We've done everything from, so it'll be 100% floor malted, but it's all automated floor malting. That's never been done in the UK.
Yep.
In fact, it's only been done successfully in one other distillery, and even they've been incredibly helpful to us.
Was that Stowning?
Stowning, yeah. They've given us loads of advice. Largely don't do it. We've had that a lot. Don't do it, and we did it anyway. So we've got that. In terms of the main distillery, and there's two parts to it. There's the large distillery, which is going to produce 1 million litres, up to 1 million litres, 500,000 thereabouts. It's designed to make 4 different spirit styles more or less simultaneously. We see it very much as a blending distillery. So the idea is to make 4 distinct styles of Islay whiskey that we can then blend together to make a purposeful product at the same time. So we've tried to make it quite modern in terms of heat recovery, all of the bits that you need to do environmentally, all the bits you need to be looking at. At the same time, my boss is one of the most obsessive whiskey geeks you'll ever encounter. And if you want to learn about old bottles and what makes them special, he is pretty much the absolutely epitome of enthusiast. You will barely ever meet anyone who knows more. So we've always had stuff like we've got direct fired stills, we direct fired wash stills so we can get that caramelization. While at the same time, to get our flex, we've got spirit stills with heat, cooling jackets on the line arms so we can cool and change the spirit. We've got, I've forgotten how many receivers, 12 receivers, so we can split all the faints out. We're looking at how we treat those receivers so we can create waxy character or non-waxy character. So all of these things have been considered, but the end result is the miles of piping, the amount of tests you've got to do. So when you're about to turn on your distillery, the first thing you have to do is test every valve. The number of valves alone is just frightening. So we kind of have an idea in our head where we think we'll start production, but the reality is we then have to test everything. And that is even before we get to
dialing in.
Well, yeah, then there's the dialing in spirit. So that's another 3-4 months hopefully 3-4 months of work. And then we built another distillery inside it, because when we designed it, we didn't think we'd own Tormore. So the thought process was, how would we make the things that we want to make? So we designed another one to do that. So we've got we used to call it the pilot plant. It'll run about at full capacity about 200,000 litres, so it's a pretty large pilot plant, which has a separate milling system. It's got a hammer mill. It's a full mashing system, so you basically take it allows you to do stuff like rye and kind of bourbon kind of mash bills quite easily, because you can run it all through the stills and you basically sort out your solids inside the still. But then Secunda was like, but we should be able to run it like we do the big ones. So I want it to be direct fire as well. So we've got 2 heating systems on the wash still. Spirit still is a replica of the other one, but smaller. Then we've added 2 retorts because we thought we might do some rum. You can also use the retorts as purifiers. And then we've got a little batch column on the end so we can make grain whiskey, because we thought, wouldn't it be nice to do 100% Islay blended whiskey? So we put all that together, and then you go, so when's it going to be operating? Right. Well, one day. That's kind of where you end up. We will. The aim is that we will be in production this year in some capacity, but we will probably not. I doubt we'll be 100% to where we want to be in 2026. I'm hoping we'll be there in 2027.
So it would seem, if you're going to challenge Ollie on any questions tonight about when the product will be available, when the whiskey will become available, his answer is going to be 2026. Hopefully. that's the thing. It's like, but I think what comes across is that managing expectations, the unpredictability of whiskey, the unpredictability of these large-scale projects. I mean, I was aware of how complex Portintruan was going to be. I knew about the malting scenario and things, but I had not any concept of the idea that there will be a distillery within a distillery. It's almost like 2 distillery projects at the same time. And it is something, that doesn't come from the corporate world, something like that. That comes from the product of somebody's kind of wish list imagination. That comes from somebody like Sukhinder Singh.
I mean, it's definitely a passion project. It's not a commercial one.
Whiskey with Molly said, "Are you building Loch Lomond, Ollie?" How many stills at Portintruan? Sorry, Ollie.
We just want to make Loch Lomond look simple. That's all. Yeah. I want Michael to be jealous. That's all. That's the only ambition.
Michael, how many stills at Portintruan is Jimmy Legs asking?
In the big still house, there's only 4. So 2 wash, 2 spirit, and then in the small one is a wash, a spirit, 2 retorts, and a batch column.
The engineer owners at Stirling are fascinating, says Ben Whiskey with Molly. Lynn Music saying this conversation is brilliant. I need to check it all on replay. Just came back from a tasting. We had a brilliant Tormore. Please keep the people on the floors. Our best wishes. Fantastic. Good to have you on Lynn Music, like Loch Lomond and Inverleven and Dumbarton. So yeah, I mean, but a modern take on that, and I think something that's. Do you know what? We've still got 2 whiskies to share. Let's do them both at the same time, Ollie. What do you think?
All right. Yeah, sounds good.
We've got a VIP pour, and this is, imagine that you have to pour a dram for a peer, somebody that's equally as geeky as you know that you already are, and then at the same time, an attention grabber. Hopefully the attention grabber thing is obvious, but I'm going to recall you mentioned Michael Henry there. You talked about drinking official bottlings. You talked about knowing what purchases you're going to make and things like that in advance. But you also, when I was doing my research, you also shared an admission. You were at a table and the latest batch of Glen Scotia Victoriana was on offer, and it blew you away.
Yeah, I've got a bottle next door. I didn't have it on tonight. I know you're a big fan, and I have had it before. Again, so Michael Henry. I'm a massive fan, and he knows that. He's a very humble guy. I've met him a few times. I met him a few times when I was at Whisky Exchange, and we did bottlings with them for TWE. And I've a long time thought he's one of those blenders who's just incredibly clever, but understated. And yeah, I think Victoriana is a pretty special whiskey. Like, that's a big kind of juicy, fruity thing. I do love fat, oily whiskey generally.
Yeah.
And it sits there, but it's got a delicacy to it. Yeah. I think it's absolutely stonker.
I wonder if mine is within reach without me causing a disaster. Hold on. I guess this would have been the branding of the bottle that you.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Obviously, there's the older, taller versions, but this is a fairly recent one. Michael told me a fascinating thing about this. I think it's well known, but from the point of decision to realization, for Glen Scotia takes 18 months because of the cash selection and the remarrying and the process that it has to go through. It's a fascinating product to exist.
So, well, okay, you're pouring that, and I agree, that is a perfect kind of geeky whiskey. I would also select it as my attention grabber as well, Ollie. Sorry to interrupt once more, but that's what I'm going to pour while you share your VIP and attention grabber. So my VIP is Chichibu Distillery 2.
Oh, okay.
Now, it could have been any Chichibu, and I am obsessive about Chichibu for a variety of reasons. One, again, because of my time at TWE, I've been very lucky to work with it. So we used to have exclusivity, and indeed, that's still our sister company has exclusivity in the UK. It's imported by brand. So I used to do cask selection for it for Whisky Exchange. When I actually first started doing cask selection on Chichibu, I had no idea how special it was. It was just a job I did, and there was this whiskies, and I'd get a lot of samples, and I'd reject a lot of stuff. But I got to know the Chiro and Yumi particularly. Yumi, if anyone's ever come across Chichibu, you will probably come across Yumi. She's very tall, a tall Japanese lady. And I love them because it's whiskey with purpose, right? And I think I kind of touched on this quite early on. Scotch whiskey largely is not without purpose, but it's opportunistic. You study the history of Scotch, and there's lots of moments of us going, well, if we make this, we might be able to make this in 10 years' time, and then changing our minds. And quite often the styles we come up with aren't consistent because we're trying to change to customers. Japanese whiskey is not like that, or it certainly hasn't been since the 1980s. It started its life as an industry trying to copy Scotch, and it took, I would say, probably Dr. Natomi to adjust that into making Japanese whiskey what it is today. So he was the master blender for Suntory. He was the creator of Hibiki. He designed Hakushu Distillery. And he's still alive, and he lives in Glasgow. So if you live in Glasgow and you see a little 80-something-year-old Japanese man drinking whiskey, that is probably Tommy. He's brilliant. Like, absolutely great guy.
Wow. I didn't realise this. I didn't realise that.
And I spent a long time chatting to him about production techniques. He's been really generous with his time, and also just about why whiskies taste the way they do. We were chatting about Yamazaki years ago, and he was talking about how old 10-year-old was designed to be this fresh, light whiskey. It's good for blending, good for making cocktails. 12-year-old was supposed to be this fruity Speyside style, and 18-year-old is voluptuous and dense, and it's after dinner drinking. Yeah. And the way they do it is by making different spirit characters at Yamazaki, and then aging them in different wood profiles, and then blending that together. So, you know, at the base, that's kind of our base of Portintruan. That's our driver for making these styles at Portintruan, is this idea of intentional whiskey. Not just, I'm going to make a distillery to make this style. I'm going to make different styles to make this whiskey perfect for this event. And there's something beautiful in it. Chichibu, I always have a bottle of Chichibu open. Chichibu is that, and then some, because you have a Chiro who is obsessive about every detail in a way that I don't think anyone else in whiskey really understands. You know, he opened his own cooperage so he could control his wood supply of Mizunara. He buys trunks. No one does that. There's no one in Scotch going out there going, I'm going to farm trees. Well, the Chiro does that because he wants control. He still gets all of his spirit cuts done by nose. There is no tech in there. He trains up young guys, he teaches them how to smell, and he's quite happy with the small changes. But what is amazing is Chichibu has a style, it has a taste. It's one of the few whiskies I think you put it in your glass, you know what it is. And so if I'm showing a whiskey geek and I want to talk about what I really love, it's this, because it's got so much purpose, so much intention. This particular bottle is obviously from the new distillery. It's only 3 years old. It is incredibly good. Like, it's not just good. This is incredibly good. It's full of fruit. It's dense. It's got this kind of chewiness to it. He changed up the new distillery. So his old distillery, he had Mizunara washbacks, which is a terrible idea. They leak a lot. They bow. If you ever go there, it's amazing. They're kind of bowing in the middle. So he changed it up, and I was chatting to him when he was building it. I said, so you putting the Mizunara back in? He goes, no, Ollie. They're not very good. They're not very good. I said, brilliant. So what are you going for? He goes, French oak. Like, you're an idiot. Why would you do French oak? That's not going to work any better. And he's like, I think it's important because he wants a particular bacteria. He wants an activity that he's identified as what Chichibu is. And he believes he's going to get it there.
Fermentation is, yep.
And then he put direct fire in for Chichibu too, so it does have that caramelization. And then further than that, I love them because he makes this, which is really special. It's really limited, small batches and everything else, very expensive. But his actual favorite product is Chiro's White Label. It's a blend. It's a world blend. He buys whiskey from Canada, America, wherever. And it's brilliant. Like, it's really well made, because the Chiro at his heart, as much as people might think of him as a distiller, he's a blender. He wants to make whiskey. He wants to put something in a bottle. So,
sorry, I am fully listening, like I promised.
No, sorry, I went full tonto.
Maybe Chiro's malt is within reach. I was hoping it would be within reach. The White Label one, I thought it was absolutely fantastic. It wasn't cheap.
No, it's a bit priced in the UK.
Yeah, but it was. But I mean, it's like you have to, sometimes sip whiskey for the flavor rather than the label specs. If I think the time I shared that at Chiro's Malt, it was the blended vPub that I did about a year ago, about this time. One of the best vPubs I did in 2020. Not best as in kind of vPub, but best as in, for me, the whiskies that I was sipping. It was actually a blended whiskey vPub. It was incredible. I think that was the one that I sipped, the Chiro's Malt. It was a cracking. The white label one was cracking. Non-age statement, right?
Yeah, non-age statement, and he it is absolutely. It's a world blend. He's buying from everywhere. I will say that there is a change. So if you're lucky enough, to go to Japan, if you're living in Japan, you're drinking a different white label to what we have currently. We're on an old batch. It's also dark, so it's a lot cheaper in Japan. It's like £20 equivalent. It's mental.
Which is I think I paid close to £100 for that bottle.
Yeah, it should retail about 60 quid, thereabouts.
Oh, maybe I'm mistaken. I'd love to. Where is it? Too many bottles. It's here. Anyway, so the VIP pick. I'm blindsided by it. I'm surprised by it a little bit. By the way, I know you sent the list through, but immediately when I started to read it, I went, I don't want to know. I want to know on the night. But it makes perfect sense why you would pick that for a fellow whiskey geek. So now you've got them swimming in geekery, happiness, contentment, contemplation, curiosity. Now you're going to pour them something.
So
to switch it all up.
Yeah. So showstopper. I'm pouring this bottle because it's what I have open. So there's a big caveat there. It's a representation more than anything of a distillery and a period. Does that make sense? So
Absolutely.
we're pretty much back all the way to the beginning for me. So it's back to Kalila, and this is a bottle that no one else can buy because it was made for me. So that's very showy, isn't it? Showy.
Oh wow!
So this is
a swagger till the end, Ollie. That's classy.
Right. So this is a 40-year-old Kalila. It was distilled 1984, same year as me. It was November 1984, but it's the 12th, so it's a little bit later than me. So I had to wait for my birthday present. It was a gift. This particular bottle was a gift from my boss for my birthday. So my colleague Andrew Thompson, who's worked with me for over a decade, went through all my tasting notes and found the cask I liked the best, and then they bottled one bottle of it for me. Well, I mean, I took it as an infinity bottle, so I may have topped it up.
Wow.
And but we bottled 84 Kalila a few times. We bottled it for Port Askaig. There was a 30-year-old, a 34-year-old. We also bottled it under Single Malts of Scotland Director Special, and in the old days, just Single Malts of Scotland. In fact, the first 25 would also be in this kind of era. But the reason I say era rather than year, because this is 84, but 79 to 84 from Kalila that's my showstopper. If I want someone to just stop, I was listening to Single Glass Nation the other day, and Jess Lomas was describing trying Blackmore in the pot still and having to just stop. I feel like I've had that whiskey. I can understand that sentiment. I feel Kalila from 79 to 84 will do that. Like I think it's that kind of moment where you go, this is somewhere beyond whiskey. You've got flavors that are really stereotypical of Kalila. You've got this kind of lemoniness. You've got all that kind of citrus to smoke, but it's denser. You've got tarragon. You've got oils, and it never stops giving. Like it just doesn't. So it is that kind of thing where if you're going to transfer someone into whiskey, this will definitely do it. To the same extent, there is no whiskey geek who will ever try this and never go, this is so special. And it's not sherried, right? There's no sherry there. It's just perfect distillate at a perfect time. Anyway.
Ollie, you understood the mission. It's an incredible story, because woven in between all the words that you used to describe and justify why you would put forward such a thing was so many other, how much your boss gives a shit to start with, right? How much somebody else knew how to uncover that thing by reading through all of those notes. I mean, it's just, it's beyond. I mean, it's just. I think one of the reasons I love whiskey as much as I do, and I do fall out with whiskey, a wee bit like you do, and you touched upon, sometimes my mojo goes off a bit and I have to step away from it for a while. I have to take breaks and things like that. And I know that it's something that we have to treat with respect. But to hear you sharing those things makes me realize that any time I've fallen away from whiskey, what draws me back again is the human part of it. How much it is utterly, it stimulates, it bonds, it inspires, but it reminds us. I mean, all the friends that I've met through whiskey, I have no business to know these people as friends, right? Some of the people that you've mentioned this evening. And whiskey did that. Whiskey did that. But it was the human pursuit of whiskey, actually, that did that. That's a fantastic thing to share. What a fantastic boss to have. Ben, Whiskey with Molly, is now bullying me in the chat to get him on. So I might need to track him down one day when he's in a good mood, and if he would ever be interested.
He tends to work about this time of night, so you just have to.
Yeah.
I haven't checked on him. He's probably still there.
When I got him, Jason Viswani introduced me to him at Limburg, and it was the first time that I'd met him. And we were at a corner, funnily enough, over at the Chichibu table, and he started to speak. He started to talk about whiskey, and it was a little bit like the discussion that we've enjoyed tonight. By the time that we came, I just let him speak. And by the time we got back to where we'd started the conversation, I think we'd covered ever so broadly most of the whiskey landscape. It was incredible. So, I mean, it's also an inspiration from somebody like Sukhinder when you look at the history there. If we talk about sometimes we need to take a step back, or we see it as work, or we disconnect with it a little bit, we fall out with whiskey for a little while. I think it's amazing to see people like Sukhinder to give us encouragement that it's just keep the obsession side of it in check. Make sure that it's passion first, and look at that. And I mean, how many years has it been for Sukhinder now? 35 years.
Well, I mean, depends how you count it. His family opened the shop in 1972. He was born 1968. He doesn't tell his story, but I think it's my favorite aspect of his personal journey is actually before he drank whiskey. His parents originally opened an electronic shop, right? So that was their first shop. So they're both, his father was running it, and his mother was doing the electrics in the back, like fixing radios. And they lived above the shop. The boys lived above the shop. And Sukhinder's first memory that he can vividly remember is getting lifted out of the window by a fireman when the shop burnt down. And his dad basically, didn't have insurance. So a friend of theirs had said, "Why don't you start an alcohol shop? Why don't you start an off license and try that to try and pay everyone back?" And that was the Nest. That was the shop they grew up in. And that was the first Asian-owned off license in the UK. I mean, it's a wild story when you look at it like that. So, yeah, he's an incredible guy. I find it difficult. He's my boss, but he's also one of my best friends, right? So we're very close. We speak pretty much every day. he is inspiring. You know, anyone who spends time with him, it's difficult not to fall in love with whiskey. It's really difficult not to become quite obsessive because he's that kind of character. He's also immensely generous, right? I live on site here at Tormore because I'm building a house somewhere else. Because he's like, well, him and his brother basically, you sort yourself out, you'll be fine. And they give you a lot of security like that. And, you know, we 100% bonded just over drinking the same things. We like the same flavors. We enjoy the same whiskey. And I still think over half our conversation is just, what does this taste like? Did you try that? Oh, I was at this bar last night and I tried this. You need to get a bottle of that. You know, I'll get sent samples. I kid you not, I get random samples of whiskey sent to me by Sekinder because he tried something. So, I'll just send that to you. So I think, or could you try and make this? Right? Well, I think we made it. It's like £500 a bottle, and you want me to make it with 3-year-old? Nah, yeah, okay.
It's amazing. That's amazing. The next time I bump into him, I'm going to try and make a deliberate attempt to spend more time with him. After working for 40 years, my boss bought me a bottle of Bells. I've now realised my actual worth, says John, the ginger genius. Buddy, stick with it. Jimmy Legis bought me a dram. You star, Jimmy, saying the best whiskey comes from and is had with friends, and it also has no sherry casks involved. we discover these folks, and you know we do try to work on Jimmy, but he's quite a very fixed character, and we love him for it. All in 1984. Kalila says Greg's Wiki Guide. Greg in Paris is saying I've tried were ace, but all indies, and they were pretty close to best Port Ellens, and not sure one could ever sever them blind at times. I'm off work tomorrow, says Ben Whiskey with Molly. He's the guy that's been bullying me to get Sukinder on. He's saying I might have to drive to Speyside. Are you about? Good trends. Fantastic stuff. Ollie, amazing. I don't know where to go with this, but I'm going to end with a couple of quick fire questions before I bully you into staying for the quiz at the end. Would you be up for it?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
Listen, things always, it's late at night, you know, and Europe were even an hour ahead of us, but that's okay because people tend to come back and they play the quiz at the end on the replay or whatever. But it's always an option for my guests. They've already given up their evening to hang out with us and things like that. But I also tend to make the quiz at the end a little bit guest leaning in order to make it so that, you know, not to honor you necessarily, but to draw attention to some things. So there are, don't get me wrong, the quiz at the end is brutal. It's not meant to be easy. It will be difficult this evening, but you will find a few questions in there that should be easy shooting for Ollie Chilton.
Or embarrassing, depending on your perspective.
Oh yeah, that's the other risk as well. If it's straightforward and the entire lounge gets the thing right and you get it wrong, then, but it doesn't happen often. Whiskey Vault has asked a question: with Elixir having several independent bottling lines, how is it decided what makes the cut to go for a certain line? Does Port Askaig ever cannibalise Elements of Islay? I'm paraphrasing there a little bit, but I can see where he's coming from there. Elements of Islay, I've got one here. It's part of your blended malt series, right?
Yeah.
So I can understand. How do you decide what's Port Askaig and what helps this?
Well, the most honest way to answer that is it is cannibalizing. So Port Askaig is taking up more and more stock. It's growing at a rate. You know, you can't complain in the current climate, but it's going at a rate that's making it tricky for us to balance going forward. So the end result is that you rejig things. So you'll probably see a change, or you definitely will see a change to Elements of Islay in the next year. We're very lucky in the climate we're in and the suppliers we've got that we can go and relook at the blend. The great thing about blended malt is you can adjust it. Yeah. In terms of split, I've tried to always say that Port Askaig has to be approachable, approachable single malt, a gateway to Islay, a way of getting people into the category. Whereas Elements of Islay originally was a celebration of all that was wild on Islay, right? It was small batches of crazy malts. So in that way, it was quite easy to make the definition. Once you get into doing a blended malt range like we've been doing for the last few years, you can make that differentiation by using more Belfry, more Ardnahoe, different types of cask selection. Essentially, the major difference ends up being in the blending room rather than with the distillate. But the longer term answer is that we're going to run out of spirit, so there'll be a change to Elements of Islay out of necessity for Port Askaig.
Very frank answer. I think obviously it makes sense if you were to kind of process it in your own mind. And I think one of the beautiful things about malt, whether it's a single malt or Elements of Islay blended malts, we need to embrace the fact that it is by definition a batch made product and therefore very batch variable. Ben is saying, Ollie, superb content tonight. Thanks so much for sharing. Are you at the Indie Festival in Leith? Are you in Leith this year?
I definitely will be in Leith. Yeah, I'm
superb.
Going to come down and have a few drams and pour a few things. We've been making our list, which is basically odds and ends. So if you come to our table, I can't guarantee you can ever buy it, but it'll probably be interesting.
That's what the Independent Spirits Festival is all about. That's exactly what it's all about. One more question here. Actually, maybe we can manage two more. Mark Wakefield has said, I am a Single Malts of Scotland fanboy. I have 4 bottles of theirs currently and tasted countless others, and they have all been stellar. The higher percentage of home run bottles of any indie that I have easy access to. I'd love to know what they have in the hopper for Single Malts of Scotland releases this year. Mark Wakefield, do you even remember what you've got in the pipeline?
Well, you know what's really weird is I spent today writing instructions because that's part of my job for what we're going to bottle. So there's some things that I think are quite tasty and quite interesting. There's some really tasty Ardnahoe, 2015 Festival Sherry Boggies. It's interesting because it was actually casked as Ardnahoe, just to confuse everybody. So before Ardnahoe was a distillery, Ardnahoe used to trade a make called Ardnahoe that is an unpeated or lightly peated make. Some of it's definitely got some smoke to it, but not a lot. So we're going to bottle some of that. We've got some lovely Belfry going in. We've got some.
But when you bottle it, you have to bottle it as Ardnahoe.
Yeah, so I phoned them up and just said, "What you've got to be respectful." I think this was a real bugbear of mine for the last few years, and I probably don't have time to delve into it. But this idea of non-distillery declared or pretend teaspooned malts and all of this, which kind of originates out of this idea of brand protection, but actually in law, it's pretty clear on how you label a bottle of Scotch whiskey, right? It's all about what the brand name is, what the distillery name is, and as long as you're abiding by that, there's actually no problems. The issue is that some distilleries tried, or distillery companies tried, for reasons of marketing and legal purposes, to hide it, and it just makes it really difficult. I kind of feel that we kind of need someone to step in and say, look, the distillery is
so bloody petty.
Well, yeah, especially because the customer's buying it. You're
not going to bottle anything that's going to tarnish any brand or any, because you need to bottle as good as it can be, right? It's just
I mean that's one argument. There are people who bottle shit stuff because they don't care or because they don't know. We have all tried those whiskies, and we can probably all point to bottling companies that we maybe don't trust, right? But fundamentally, if you get the branding right, like, it has to be checked by a bottling hall to say that the brand name is the most obvious thing on there. And if you're a geek buying an independent bottling, you already know that, right? You're not judging Daluin by this big brand name. You're not saying, well, Daluin shit, because you're buying that product. Like, I fully get where distilleries come from if you've got their name in lights on the front label. Yeah, that's wrong. That's definitely wrong. You're claiming something that's not your own. But actually, the law is pretty good. Like, the way the regs are written are pretty strong. We just kind of need to get on board with it. So the way we've worked as a company is I just pick up the phone and I phone whoever I deal with at CVH in this case. And I say, John, I bought this stock. It says Ardnahoe. I obviously can't call it that because I'll be in trademark battles and confusion. What do I call it? So if you call it distilled that Bunnahabhain Distillery. And as long as it has that phrase on it, it's fine. It's the same with Williamson. So if you've got Williamson and it says single malt on the commodity code, which, well, this is very sad stuff, but again, it's all controlled by HMRC. It's not something that we make up, right? It's all legal. There's a commodity code that's tied to the whiskey, and the commodity code will either say blended whiskey, blended malt, single malt, or grain, right? And if it says single malt and it says Williamson, it's distilled at the Frog Distillery. And that's what I write on the label, and that's legal. And I think we need to get kind of some of the legal and marketeers out so it can be properly structured. The best example I can give you was chatting to a colleague at Suntory. He's retired now, and we were buying a parcel of Ardmore, right? And he said, Ollie, is there any way when you bottle it, you could change the name a little? So I said, how about I just use the old name for Ardmore? I don't know if you know what the old name for Ardmore is.
And I know there's another Ardlair is the unpeated.
So the old name for Ardmore is also Ardmore, but it's with a H in it.
Okay.
So there are some bottles of Single Malts of Scotland that say Ardmore on it. Now we bought the spirit as Ardmore. It's on the paper it's Ardmore, but I was asked by the distiller, could you change it? So that's what I changed it to. And his reasoning was that they'd had a complaint from the legal team in America that some company was using their brand name, right? And he was like, okay, what are you worried about? Ardmore's being used by this company. Oh, okay. Well, could you send me a picture of the label? And it was Gordon MacPhail. And he's phoning like this, that Gordon MacPhail had been bottling Ardmore before we owned it. Like, this isn't like...
They literally, you're talking about the distillery labels released from it's madness.
And he's like, okay, well, we'll go and ask them. So the way I've worked is I've said to them, well, what do you want me to write? Whatever you want to write, I'll write that. And everyone's happy. But fundamentally, if it comes to that distillery, I'm allowed to write distill that, this distillery, done. That's where we actually lie. God, that was a rant. Apologies.
No. I think you say rant. I suggest curious gold. I really do. Buddy, I've kept you in that seat for 2 hours, 43 minutes. Can you give me another 30?
Yeah, we're fine. We're all good.
Fantastic. Thanks to everybody that's hung out with us tonight. It's been brilliant chat. I could sit here for much, much longer. But as the evening's gone on, I'm collapsing more and more into what Ollie's saying and less into the fact that I'm hanging out with beautiful whiskey folk. Since the fascination of super blenders, says Henrik Schmidt, he's saying, like Chichibu, how does he feel about previous master blenders at Compass Box? Oh my goodness, that's interesting. I think that we may have to have Ollie back for another vPub in the future. Toby is here. Good to see you, Toby. Great guest, and super fascinating conversation to listen to. I was supposed to be in bed over an hour ago. Toby, thank you so much for still being here. Whiskey with Molly Ben is saying, Ollie, superb content tonight. Sorry, I picked that one up asking if you were going to be at the festival. What are you holding up there? It's
it won't focus, I don't think. It's a very small bottle of the whiskey that was made for my wedding by Compass Box. As someone asked about super blenders. So I got married in 2013, and I used to live next door to their office. And Greg Glass made this. He is definitely a super blender. He's a genius. And obviously John signed it off. John was a pal. He's a pal.
Are you pals with Greg Glass?
Yeah, very much so. I spoke to him last week.
I would love to have an introduction to Greg Glass. I'm amazed that some of the chatter that I've had about Greg over the years on the vPub has not got to him. It might have got to him and it's put him off. But he's responsible for doing amazing things.
He's an utter genius, and he's good at waxing bottles. I mean, he did all of these. We did them in the backyard in Chiswick.
Well, I would love it, and I'm not suggesting I need to be introduced in order to bully him on to coming into the vPub. I would just love to have a discussion with Greg Glass. Falscraft is saying, I just remember hearing about the leapfrog scandal in the 80s, I believe, Aquavitae. I know all the things that the brand protectionism comes in with people who are very good at their jobs, but often lack wisdom in the context. Greg's Whisky Guide in Paris is saying that was priceless, Roy. Ollie, thanks. Greg, it's a pleasure to have you in here, buddy. Thank you for being so kind. And Timothy is saying this has been a vPub for the ages. Fantastic insights and stories from Ollie. Could listen to him for days. Well, we might need to have him back again. Rick in San Francisco is saying we were married in the same year, Ollie. So there you go. Rick's going to come bowling up to you, all 6 foot odd of him. You shake your hand with a big California smile and remind you that he's the guy that's married this year as you.
I mean, I've met Rick. He's been to the distillery. So.
Oh, terrific. So you already know him. Fantastic. Whiskey's on, Rick.
Yeah, we've met a couple of times.
Superb. So now it's time, my friend. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thanks to everybody who's hung out with us until this time. If the quiz isn't your thing, then fine, but maybe you want to just stay in the background and play along and just see how you got on. You don't need to share your score with anyone. It's all multiple choice. First 5 questions should ease you into it. Be generally quite light. I don't know how these questions are working out tonight. I never know how to judge these things until it plays out. Some of them will lean towards Ollie, of course, but it gets more difficult. Watch out for the banana skins and the asshats as you get towards the end. Thank you very much for joining us. If you're leaving tonight, please don't leave without a wee thumbs up, as Michael reminded us at the start of this evening. Okay, here we have it, buddy. I'm going to ask you just to do the very, very best you can. You don't need to share your score if you don't want to, but other people will be counting. Pass mark is 5 out of 10. I think you'll find it an absolute breeze. Good luck, Ollie. Good luck, everyone. Question 1. Which of the following brands is owned by Elixir Distillers? Okay, this would be embarrassing, right?
Go on, then.
A, Highland Nectar. B, the Single Malts of Scotland. Or C, Black Tot Rum.
All of them. Oh, well, that's answer. Do I answer? No.
No, you hold your water.
Okay, fine.
And I'll say at some point, once our beautiful whiskey folk, dedicated barflies, all the people in the lounge that are still hanging out with us to play along. Still 175 of us hanging out with us tonight, even at this time. It's superb. Thank you all for your commitment, honestly. But they'll get a chance to answer, and then I'll politely turn to you, Ollie, and say, which of these is your brand? Jean Kelly is saying, great guest. Pedro in Brazil is saying, can't wait to have Ollie back at the vPub. Amazing chat. Superb, Pedro. It's amazing to see you in here tonight, buddy. Billy Abbott is going with an A, B, and a C. Good to have you in, Billy, as always. It's nice to see you, my friend. How are you doing? Dave the Brave is saying ABC. Graham Young is saying ABC. Whiskey with Molly is saying all of them. ABC, says Steve Atkiss. We can't easily catch out you knowledgeable whiskey folk. A lot of you are going safe by saying B for the Single Malts of Scotland. It's already been mentioned tonight, of course. But the Liqueur Highland Nectar and Black Tot Rum are also Elixir brands. So nobody gets a donut on the quiz at the end tonight. Everyone goes home with a minimum of 1 point. It's a freebie for everybody. Question 2. Tormore's water source is what? A, a loch, B, a stream, C, a well. Yalpin is saying, good to see you. Still in here tonight, hanging out with us. It's amazing. Thank you for your staying power. This was an amazing vPub, one that I will need to rewatch to really process all the information. Yalpin, I feel the same. I might actually break a rule and listen back on one of my own vPubs just to pick up on some of the things that might have flown under the radar, some of the nuggets and gold dropped by Ollie. I love these kind of vPubs with great stories. You bought me a dram as well, Billy Bennett. Thank you so much for your generosity, buddy. It's wonderful to have you still in here towards the end. The majority of the chat, Daisy Vleeland is in as well. Good to see you, Daisy, as always. Going along with Sugar Kitty in the answer. Graham Young, the same. Danny Hebbington, the same. What are we going to suggest here? What is Tormore's water source, Ollie?
It's a stream. Well, I mean, it is a stream. We have some lovely little. They're not really locks, but they're kind of little ponds that we've created at the top there.
Pools.
Pools. Yeah. My favorite term, because we're talking about this for Portintruan. So Portintruan, we're drawing from boreholes, which doesn't sound very sexy. But I was up at Benriach some time ago, and one of the tour guides said to me, "We draw our water from an underground stream." I was like, that's a fantastic term for a borehole. I'm using that. 100% stealing that. It comes from an underground stream.
Or, as we'd say in Scotland, an underwater burn.
An underwater burn.
So I think the Tormore burn, or Alt Tormore, I think it's called, would be your water source, which is, of course, a burn is a stream. That's what we're looking for. And it is very much not underwater. Sorry, underground. It's an above ground water source.
Very much above ground and free flowing.
Question 3. What whiskey-themed curiosity is said to be buried on the site where Tormore is built? I'm going to give you 3 options of something that's said to be buried underneath the site where Tormore is built. A, artifacts of illicit Highland distilling are buried under there. B, a whiskey time capsule to be opened in 2060 is buried under there. Or C, remnants of an 18th century distillery. Artifacts of distilling, a time capsule, or remnants of an ancient distillery. What is said to be buried under the site where Tormore exists today? Mike Molasses is saying, it's nice to see you, and Mike, it's always a pleasure to have you. You're 2 out of 2 so far. Derek McGrainer saying, I'll sleep well in blissful ignorance. Good night, sir. Derek is slinking off to bed in Dublin. It's always great to have you in, Derek. I hope to see you this year. This was in our dram face. I'm a distillery quiz, Andy is suggesting. Yes, there might be truth in that, Andy. It pays to listen to all the content that gets put out there. I hope there are still people willing to dig a hole in 2060, says Jimmy Legg. Jimmy. Okay, the majority of the lounge is going in a certain direction. Ollie, where are you going to take us on this one? Are we talking about ancient distilling artifacts, time capsules, or remnants of distilleries?
B, a whiskey time capsule that was put down when the distillery opened officially in 1960. So
Superb.
1959.
You're a bit younger than me. I'll need to survive to being 90 years old in order to witness.
I'm hoping to make it. We'll see. I mean, we did come very dangerously close to digging it up by accident. So.
Oh yeah! Wow. Yeah, you don't want to do that. I tell you what. Well, let's make a deal. If I'm still alive at 90 and fit and healthy and interested in whiskey, of course, give me an invite to come up and see the uncover.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll open the bottle of Long John that's in there and drink it together. Yeah,
that's right. Apparently, it's a massive bottle as well. A bottle large enough to sate an entire party. Okay, great stuff. 3 out of 3 for Ollie so far. Question 4. Tormore is one of the first distilleries you encounter when heading north into Speyside. But which of these distilleries is closest? as the crow flies. I'm going to give you 3 distilleries, not necessarily the immediate neighbour, of course. I'm going to give you 3 distilleries. You just have to tell me which one is closest to Tormore. A, Macallan. B, the Cairn. C, Benrinnes. A, is Edrington's Macallan closest to Tormore? B, Gordon MacPhail's the Cairn? Or C, Diageo's Benrinnes? Billy Abbott is saying, how are you older than me? Have you got a picture in your attic? What age is Billy? Billy and I are similar vintage, no?
No, he's younger than me.
Billy's younger than you?
He's not.
No.
Just let's wind him up. He's a 1978. Not that we're very close, but yes, I know his birth year, and I buy with
78. Yeah, I'm 1970 vintage, Billy. 1970. I'll be 56 this year. Whiskey's keeping me honest thus far.
What's good for your vintage was 1970?
Yeah, it's tough to get 1970 vintage stuff. I don't know why.
Yeah. 71 I'd be doing. 69 I can tell you, but 70.
I had an absolutely orgasmic Pulteney 1970 vintage. Yeah, only a sample, unfortunately. I haven't had much. My friend in Germany, Doc Macallan Fine and Rare, bought me a North of Scotland 1970, which is beautiful, but Scotch bourbon, basically. But bottled at 41 years old, bottled in 2011. But it's tough to get a hold of 1970 vintage stuff. It really is. What are we saying here, Ollie? Are we going? What's the closest to you, Macallan? The Cairn?
So I feel like the big banana thing's a problem for me because in my head it's Benrinnes. I drive past Benrinnes, but then you have to turn off. Ooh, I don't know, Benrinnes or Macallan. That's it's quite hard. I can't believe the Cairn is closer because that's 25 minutes drive. So I'm going to stick with Benrinnes. Macallan's the wrong side of the river.
The big deal here is that I'm talking about as the crow flies. The roads to get up to Benrinnes, but the banana didn't scare you. You're absolutely right. It doesn't matter how you measure it. The curvy roads, it's Benrinnes, out of those 3 choices, is always going to be your closest distillery.
I work it from the fact that I buy all my meat from a farm that's Glenlossie, and that's pretty much close to Benrinnes. And that's before I get to Macallan.
Yeah. I suspect that you're also a fan of Benrinnes malt as well.
I am. I'm a big fan of Benrinnes, and I'm a big fan of the fact that you've got great history, and it's interesting because it changes, obviously, from triple distilled, double distilled, and also Polly Logan ran Benrinnes for ages, so I get loads of insight.
2007, I think the switch was, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Partial triple.
Yeah.
To double. So for a long time, I think it's past now, but for a long time, the Flora and Fauna release would have obviously had to have been the partial triple. But if you're buying it today, it's likely that it would be double distilled.
Yeah.
But I'm a fan of Benrinnes. I love, but it does. I know that a lot of people love it in sherry, but for me, Benrinnes is just gorgeous when it's from a refill or if it's been left long enough in a refill, I find it completely charming. Question 5 is always the picture question, Ollie. I don't know if you immediately recognize this. You probably do. You're feeling quite confident. It's a bit of an asshat, but a small asshat question. We're looking at a distillery courtyard thing here. I think it's actually a public road that runs right through the distillery complex. We roundabout and everything. Obviously, I'm asking you what distillery it is, but I need you also to tell me who the owner is. The owner of this distillery is either A, Diageo, B, Chivas Brothers, which is obviously Pernod Ricard, or C, Bacardi, or Dewar's. Are we looking at a distillery that's owned by Diageo, Chivas Brothers, or Bacardi? Easy peasy. The asshat, Ollie, is about you need to know the answer to 2 different things in order to get the question, but this one's pretty soft. It's quite easy.
Well, I guess we're waiting for everybody, right? Yeah.
Oh, so this one has got, some people have had a wee slip up tonight. Jerry Miller, Peter Box, Steve Atkiss, Frank Peterhead. What has tripped you up? Oh, wow. Maybe the As the Crow Flies thing. That was the reason for the banana skin. I put the As the Crow Flies thing as almost to kind of throw you a little bit. I wonder if the obvious one caught some people out. But also on the geography one, I think that's quite difficult. It's quite abstract, especially if you don't live here, or if you haven't visited or travelled around Speyside, it would catch me out too. Anyway, what are we looking at here, Ollie?
I think we're at Decadent distillery, and I think it's Craigellachie, but I might be horribly wrong.
5 out of 5 for Ollie. It is absolutely Craigellachie. It is absolutely Diageo. I picked this picture off of Google Maps. I think this is a public road that goes right through the complex, and this is us from the other side of the roundabout there. You can see the gates with the Craigellachie logo on the other side there. And it is owned by, of course, Diageo. Currently still represented by the 12-year-old at 40%. Such a shame when they bring out special releases. It's absolutely gorgeous. I remember being served some particularly lovely vintage stuff from the family down at Ballindalach, and that was seismic whiskey. Unfortunately, it's pretty rare liquid. We don't get to touch it very often. Craigellachie is very rare as an independent, isn't it, Ollie?
You never see it. You never see it. I mean, the guys at Ballindalach had it because the family had it. They used to own the land.
Mm-hmm.
The distilleries aren't in it, so it's part of the deal. It was 88, 89. Is that the stuff you tried?
Well, I remember it was 28 years old, and that was in 2019. So that it suggests 89, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing. Amazing.
It was a attention grabber category, I would suggest. Silenced. Yeah, a dram's come in from my pal and superstar Ben Whiskey with Molly. He's bought us a dram to say thank you, Ollie. Superb stuff. Thank you, Ben. Okay, question 6. It's going to get trickier, Ollie. You need to hold on. You're 5 out of 5 so far, okay? But it's getting tough now. What anticipated release is due to be released on the 24th of February? What are we anticipating this month? A brand new Island 14-year-old. B, a brand new Lowland inaugural. Or C, a brand new Islay cask strength. Specifically, the press release tells us that we'll be able to pick this up from the 24th of February. I'm talking about a long-anticipated Island 14-year-old, a long-anticipated Lowland inaugural, or a long-anticipated Islay cask strength. It's hard to keep up with the press releases while you've got so much going on.
I think I know what it is, but I'm basing that just on the fact that Bill Lumsden's been somewhere on my screen at some point, along with Gillian. But and I might be horribly wrong, but I would guess it'd be C, brand new Islay cask strength.
Okay, I have to tell you that you're in synchronization with the lounge. Without exception, they're going for C. So absolutely, you mentioned Gillian, you mentioned Bill. We are talking about LVMH. We are talking about Ardbeg, and we are therefore talking about a brand new Islay cask strength. A cask strength 10-year-old Ardbeg due to come out on the 24th, 75 quid. I think it would have been an amazing statement, but I'm just being greedy perhaps. If they brought that out at 65 quid, we're talking about 33% more alcohol in there. I know there's lots of other complexities and stuff, much smaller outturn, etc., but the sweet spot for cask strength whiskey right now, even at 10 years old, I would suggest is 65 quid. However, it is Ardbeg. I'm still going to buy it. Question 7.
How much?
Sorry?
How much is it?
75.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's all right. You'll buy it on discount in 6 months' time.
No, we won't. Well, the ones that want it will buy it immediately, and the people that were ambivalent will buy it on discount in 6 months' time.
You can buy Lefroy 10-year-old cask strength for 45 quid if you look around.
Oh, only batch 16. Only batch 16. But to be fair, it's a belter of a batch, and it's every bit. I suspect that there aren't a lot of people making money on that, but there's obviously a lot of it around. Anyway, question 7. Since the year 2000, how many new Scotch malt distilleries have been founded in Speyside? Specifically Speyside, since the year 2000. I'll also go one further and suggest this is facts based on the Malt Whisky Yearbook. And I see from over your shoulder earlier this evening that you're a fan of the Malt Whisky Yearbook.
So Ingvar's a good pal, and I have bought everyone going back to, well, my first book here was 2008, but I had 2007 somewhere.
Sorry, your first book is what?
2008 that I've got here. 2008 is the earliest I've got here, but I had 2007. I don't know where it's gone. I don't have the first. I don't have 2006.
I don't. I've not even seen a 2006 Ollie.
We had one in the shop. In fact, I'm pretty sure my 2008 says staff copy, do not sell, which is like kind of tells you a lot about where I got that from. Yeah, and I'm a big fan of the yearbook, with the big caveat that my wife's a historian and she'll tell you all that's wrong with it. So
no, but for us, see, to have that amount of information packed into such a small companion, I mean, it is this quiz at the end of the vPub for 8 years now. Over 8 years has been built on the back. I use other sources as well, of course I do, but 80+% of it is built on the back of the Malt Whisky Yearbook.
The Malt Whisky, it is amazing.
Yeah.
The caveat is Ingvar relies on information from brands, right?
Yes.
And I say this because if my wife is not in bed already, she's listening, she'll scream at me if I don't. The problem with that is that most brands are run by marketers who are not, they're not historians. They're not really actually interested in the truth. They're interested in the story. So she's an archaeologist by trade, buildings archaeologist. And she went into research because after our son was born, she was looking for some different work. She ended up working with Nick Morgan on his Johnny Walker book, which, if you want a history, it is the best, right? 100% the best, because the work that went into it is wild.
But it's also much more than Johnny Walker. It's almost like a story of the trials of Scotch whisky.
Yeah, absolutely. But the accuracy, and I obviously I'm a little bit biased here, but the accuracy of that book is incredible. I think that's what's really, there's a couple of books that are like that. They really care about the accuracy. The difficulty with the yearbook is that a lot of the history in it is based on brand stories, and brand stories, like I even know this from Tormore. So when we bought the distillery, we would tell people, it started distillation with the roof off. Well, there's now a video that we found because it was filmed. The roof is definitely on, and we're slowly learning the things. We were told that the curling rink has never been used. We found 5 news articles of stories of the curling rink being used at Tormore. So to do that research is massive. To invest in that, the best companies, Diageo, they do invest in it. They pay for my wife a lot of money to do research. But it is worth it because some of the bits of information are incredible. And the yearbook is brilliant because it gives you so much information, as you say, in a small place. But some of the history bits need digging into, which Ingvar can't do. And that's not his fault.
He's one guy. And I think the takeaway from this is we know this. If you're doing a quiz at the end or whatever, it's just good fun and stuff. You can just kind of dip in and take whatever quiz questions you want out of there. But if you're doing serious research, you can never rely on any any single source. My book collection is littered with wonderful books to look at. They're eye-popping, and the distilleries went on, Beam Suntory sponsored publication about Bowmore and associated distilleries and things, picture by picture by picture. It's fascinating. Every single page is scripted, perfectly scripted, to run along with the story of, and you can never go back into that lightly and take that as fact, right? It was actually Ian Buxton that wrote that book. But again, even although he's been contracted to do a very specific thing. So yes, multiple sources is the takeaway. Would your wife agree with such a statement?
No, she would tell you primary sources or nothing. Primary sources, nothing.
First witnesses and nothing.
Yeah, so the best example I can give you, and I hope this isn't talking out of school. She was doing some work for a large distillery company on a distillery that was reopening on Islay, that clearly wanted to push a message of experimentation, and they had a book that said distillery was the home of the first spirit safe, and was the home of the first coffee still, and they said, we'd like you to prove it. So she went off and she did primary source research. Primary source research is where you go to things like newspapers on the day that this event happened, what was written, and she came back to like, there is zero primary source evidence of anything you're saying. The only thing that you have is a book from the 1960s. That's not primary source. That's hearsay.
It's anecdotal.
You can't prove anything. And her argument is, if it's not primary source, it's not real. And I think that's actually the best way to look at it. We're very lucky. We're a young distillery here at Tormore. We're only 59. We have mountains of primary source. Like I am sinking in primary source information. So my wife is building up this archive. So it's stuff like, I can tell you one of our first customers is the Savoy Hotel, because I've got a filling book that says they bought 5 Burstfield sherry butts of Tormore in 1960. And that kind of information is gold, right? Well,
yeah.
You can't. The daft thing is, a lot of these distilleries also had that information, that they threw it out or they burnt it. We're lucky at Tormore. The only reason we have so much primary source information is that we had a stillman named John, who recently retired. He lives in Grantown, and he was sent a message from head office saying, could you throw out any information? This was along with GDPR. I'm not saying GDPR is bad, but they basically needed to get rid of any records. And it's easier to say get rid of everything than just get rid of, the records about stuff. And instead of getting rid of it, he just left it in the village hall, because we have a village hall. And when we bought it, we had a village hall full of paper. And John's like, well, that's yours now. So my wife spent 3 years.
Wow.
We can tell you how much toilet paper cost. We can also tell you an awful lot of information about stuff which we're not allowed to for GDPR reasons. But we also have every filling book and every mashing book and we have everything, which is it's such a treasure trove. It's such an amazing thing to have.
And the idea to destroy it for GDPR is absurd, isn't it?
It is, but you can understand if you're a big company.
Yeah, of course. Right? But it's following the letter of law rather than the spirit of. Yeah. So that's unfortunate. So that's interesting. So just to speak to everyone that's still enjoying the quiz at the end, or we're going to get back onto it just now. For anyone that has ever answered a question, to suggest and the quiz at the end that Port Ellen is the first distillery to have run a spirit stave. And if you got that wrong, you know the rules of the quiz at the end. You can claim that now and take that point, because Oliver has just proven tonight, or suggested by anecdotal means, that is potentially anecdotal.
If I take it a step further, right? So here's a wonderful Tormore fact that you can use if you accept that spirit safe fact, right? So the first spirit safe apparently was at Port Ellen, but there's no actual evidence of that. If it was then removed and sent to Lefroy. There's a record saying it was removed and sent to Lefroy. When Lefroy's still house was expanded in 1973, because it's a new building if you go there now, right? They took the spirit safe out and they sent it to Tormore, which spirits are distillation doubled here. And so we have 2 spirit safes here at Tormore. We've got one for wash and one for spirit. And apparently our spirit safe is Lefroy's. So on that basis, we have the original spirit safe. But I know it's bollocks because we've also seen a picture of the original spirit safe and it's not the same as ours.
It doesn't look like yours.
but it's a wonderful story.
It is. All of these are all wonderful stories. Why are we doing a quiz when we've got stories to share?
I apologize. I've really gone completely.
No, don't apologize at all. Question 7. Since the year 2000, how many new Scotch malt distilleries have been founded in Speyside? I know you've been all answering. I didn't even give you the options. I apologize. A, less than 5. B, exactly 5. Or C, more than 5. I'm going to need to scroll up to see what everyone was answering on this one. We don't know. Oh, no, I didn't give them the options, so it's only going to start to come out now. A, less than 5 distilleries since 2000 have been founded in Speyside. This is amongst a whisky distillery founding boom. My complexion is always a wee bit pink on the vPub. It's always maybe against the blue, or I don't know, my white balance or whatever. My general kind of Scottish complexion, it's very pink. But tonight it's been exceptionally pink. I only say that because I clicked over to the YouTube window and I witnessed this very, very quickly on replay. And I'm looking super pink tonight. But nobody's here based on how we look, Ollie. It's all about.
Thank God for that.
Oh my goodness! Thank God and everything else for that. This is splitting. Obviously, it's getting trickier now that we're getting towards the end. We've got a mix of B's from Jerry Miller, from Petehead Frank, from Bob Wenting, and C's from the majority of other people. What would you suggest, Ollie? Are you now guessing? Or do you know?
Well, I'm definitely guessing, but I actually think it's less than 5. I think it's A, because I'm trying to count them up in my head, and I guess it also depends where you begin and end Speyside. I mean, there's a little bit of that.
Yeah, like we've already mentioned, Malt Whisky Yearbook, the parishes of Speyside, all of that type of thing. Okay, let's go.
My problem is.
How many can you list that you would suggest as Speyside?
Wow, so I've got Mark White in my head, right? Grandtown's Speyside doesn't start till the river.
Mark is superb.
Mark and I were chatting about this the other day. He's Speyside born and bred.
Yeah.
And the bridge at Grandtown is definitely the start of Speyside. Like, and if you live in Speyside, there's people on the school who live on Speyside.
So you're suggesting that the cairn then doesn't make it in?
Well, so I will count the cairn, but I think it's definitely questionable. So you've got the cairn, you've got right now you've got I think in reality I'd probably say 3, because you've got Ballandalloch is actually new, and then you've got up beyond Dufftown, what's it called? God, my brain stopped working. The Cabra. I'm really struggling to think single malt distilleries that have founded in Speyside. I think that's all I can really think of. Oh, Dunfail 4. I mean, it's a difficult question. On that, then maybe exactly 5 is right.
Okay. I'm going to read them out, Ollie.
Go on then.
Ballandalloch.
Yeah.
The Cairn.
Aye.
Dunfail.
Aye.
Dalmunnock.
Oh, yes, of course.
Cabrach.
Yeah.
And Rose Isle.
I mean, Rose, fuck you. That's never Speyside. What are you talking about? Not in a million years. No.
Rose Isle.
Is Glenlossie Speyside as well? No. No, I'm not having
Oh,
that.
Glenlossie is not, but Rose Isle.
No, because it's too far away.
Too far. So, based on the objection raised by Ollie, you know the rules of the vPub quiz at the end. If you choose that the question is wrong, I've made a mistake, or there is something just bizarrely obtuse about it, you have the ability, you're only playing against yourself. It's like golf. It's like you're out playing golf on your own and you're counting your own score. You can take your own point from that. If you suggest that Rose Isle is not a Speyside distillery, I wonder what the bottle actually says, the Rose Isle bottle. What does it say on it? I think it probably says Highland and non Diageo. But anyway,
I will happily accept your answer. I'm sure it's right.
Frank is also interjecting to suggest that even in the Malt Whisky Yearbook, Dunphail is actually listed in the Highlands. Oh,
well, I mean, so here's a question: what's Brackla?
In the Malt Whisky Yearbook, it's Highlands.
Yeah. So,
and I think Brackla is also in Charles McLean's Whiskypedia. I think it's also Highlands. Brackla.
See, Speyside is such a weird region.
Like Knockdhu, Anarch the brand. That Knockdhu is in the Malt Whisky Yearbook. It's a Speysider, but Charlie McLean lists it as a Highlander. Listen, it's fun. It's just this question. This is exactly why it's supposed to be fun, right? It's just a bizarre concept in itself. Speyside as a region, right? It's just, it was like, you know, once upon a time the Glenlivet, you know, it's just, and then.
Well, I remember someone saying to me once that, well, obviously Dalwhinnie should be a Speyside. So they're going on what basis? Like, well, it's a contributor to the Spey. Good God. Like, if you take it that far back.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely, having lived here, what I really feel is there's definitely a sense of where you go, where you don't go. So Tormore is between Grantown and Aberlour. Like, we are between two very distinct areas, and it feels it, right? So I've got some of the guys here live in Grantown. That's where they're from, and everyone is like north of Aberlour, right? And it feels like you're in almost two worlds. I also think it's why Tormore's ended up. Some of the stories here are wild, because we are definitely not in any community. It's definitely a community on a hill on its own. And that idea that Speyside is a place is not. It's not a thing. My son goes to school at Craigellachie. My daughter will go there next year. It's so I can go to the pub unapologetically. And we're building a house in Glenlivet. And if I speak to any of the people who live in my house in Glenlivet about stuff that goes in Craigellachie, I might as well be speaking about something that's going on in Germany. They literally have no idea or no cares. Like, that's too far away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that idea that it's just one community, one place, it's not one place.
But you even find that same division on Islay. If you talk about people, you know, from the north of Islay, south of Islay, it's amazing. I used to joke when I was younger about Scots being the most prejudiced people in the world because we even hate each other. You know, it's tongue in cheek, but there is some truth in that. It's crazy.
I would argue, and I would argue it is more of a UK than even a Scotland thing. I mean,
absolutely.
How can you have a country like the United Kingdom where you have an entire county, Yorkshire, that is got more people than Scotland, right? And has still managed to divide itself into four. Like, it is mental. And I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again. When I was doing tastings, I used to do tastings with Diageo, the pay-per-play job. You got paid £100 to turn up in any pub to do a tasting. And I went over to a pub in Ilkley. Right? Ilkley's kind of towards Bradford, right? And I was living over in York. So I got on the train, took my bottles over there, and it's a free tasting. So I turn up in this pub, and there's these 4 old guys sitting in the corner, like proper Monty Python, like my dad, blah blah.
Yeah.
And I go up to them. I said, "Would you like to taste some whiskey?" And they go, "You're not from Scotland." No, I'm not. I said, "You're not even from Yorkshire." And I said, "Well, my mum's from Pickering." Now, Pickering's North Yorkshire, like proper North Yorkshire.
Yeah.
And they go, "That's North Yorkshire. This is West Yorkshire." I was like, right, the whiskey's free. No, you can sit down. And I was like, that is UK culture. How can we divide up this not only nation? How can we make this mental, properly mental?
Superb. Superb. But he was right. You're not Scots, and you're
not Yorkshire. I don't get to be anything.
Billy Bennett, Aquaviti. This is the longest the longest quiz ever, but I don't mind. Rick Johnson is saying now this actually feels like being in a pub. That's exactly what we're. Superb. Question 8. My goodness, only in question 8. In Scott Adamson's What the Industry Drinks vPub, the exact same session as this, but way back in episode 2 or something, Scott Adamson's What the Industry Drinks vPub. He shared the fermentation times at Tomatin as what. Now, this is a horrible question, but I've used it a few times since. Scott shared that he had fermentation times of 49 and 72 hours. B, 72 hours and also 168 hours. Or C, everything was 168 hours. Talking about fermentation times here, specifically at Tomatin, famously in the 1970s, Scotland's biggest distillery by capacity. But we somehow in that session got discussing fermentation times, and Scott shared that his fermentation times were either A, 49 and 72 split, B, 72 and 168 split, or C, everything at 168. Andy is saying West Yorkshire or West Riding, as it was when I was a boy, is best. Yeah, he's now living in the peninsula. He's now living in Campbelltown, is Andy. Dave the Brave is saying Oliver is the best guest ever. Dave, thank you for being here and saying such things. Keep turning up for all the guests. Keep saying the exact same statement. But honestly, I've enjoyed my time with Ollie. And we're still only in question 8. Whiskey with Molly saying, you know, when you said you hate getting drunk, I've had 3 snacks and the time is taken to debate this question. Point taken, Ben. We're moving. Okay, buddy, what do you think, Ollie? What do you think? 49, 72, 72, 168, or everything's done at 168?
I can't imagine. I imagine they're on a. When was this? 2024.
This would have been 2023, maybe 2024.
Well, they must have been on 5-day weeks then, and it'll be one of A or B. I can't imagine they're doing everything 168. Maybe they are. I've got no idea. I'm going to go B because it sounds the most plausible, even if it sounds a bit long. No, I don't believe it.
They balanced the production doing everything at 168 hours.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Amazing. And I think he's retired now, but this was a project of Graham Unson that was the guy that was there. He's been at a few places. I think he's now retired. But just the capacity, the output of the distillery meant that it just made absolute sense for lots of reasons. And I'm not suggesting that they're still doing it now. It could be the case. I hope it's the case. It might be interesting.
It depends, because if you I don't want to distract from your quiz, but there's also a reality that if you're in stainless steel washbacks and you've done all your fermentation, actually nothing happens. So it's all a bit of a waste of time.
Are all tomatin stainless steel?
I have no idea. It's a good question.
Yeah.
I guess my point would be... Question
9. How many of tomatins washbacks?
Where's my year? Go on, carry on.
Is Billy Abbott still in and playing along?
Oh yeah, he's got 8 out of 8, of course.
Oh, of course he has. Of course he has. Question 9. Which distillery, as part of a year-long refurbishment, has now replaced all of its wooden washbacks with stainless steel? You can see how my mind works when I'm making these questions, right? Yeah, there's a distillery that's just completed a year-long refurbishment, but one of the products of that refurbishment means that its wooden washbacks are now no longer, and they are all now stainless steel. Am I talking about A, Dalmore, B, Highland Park, or C, Glencadam? A, Dalmore, Northern Highlands, B, Highland Park and Orkney, C, Glencadam, Eastern Highlands. Where are we? What?
I think I know this one.
Good. You've only slipped up once, right? You've nailed it. I mean, it doesn't matter what happens in. You've done very, very well on a quiz at the end, Ollie.
Well, you say that. I'm really annoyed that I've got one wrong.
But again, that's the point of the quiz at the end. It has to become something that, in order to get a 10 out of 10, it has to be something that you genuinely can say yes.
But the answer to this one, if I'm right and other people apparently are right, is depressing only because I remember going to said distillery with some pals of mine, all of which in the whiskey industry, and seeing a wooden washback with a metal plate in it because it was leaking, which is still one of my favorite answers to a question of like, how do you fix something? Just stick a metal plate in it. Does it work? But no, not great.
Stick a metal plate in it.
Yeah.
So what do you think? What distillery was that tour?
I think it's probably Highland Park. I know they were replacing all their washbacks with metal washback, and I know one of them was basically had a giant metal plate screwed to the side of it.
Huge upgrades and refurbishments done at Dalmore, Highland Park and Glencadam. But Dalmore and Glencadam have their washbacks are untouched. Highland Park have replaced their wooden washbacks with stainless steel. Will that have an impact on the spirit? I think there's absolutely no doubt, but it's going to be 10 or 12 years before we all get to sit around and shout at each other over Glencairns and talk about whether it has actually made any difference. The thing is that it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be 100 times better, 100 times worse. It's just potentially going to be a wee bit different. Whisky with Molly celebrating a 9 out of 9. How many people are nearly there before we get to the asshat at the end? The deliberately awkward question. We've got Kyle Taylor, Andy Hells, Billy Bennett all on 8. Danny Hebington also on 8. Timothy H007. Timothy, that's probably YouTube changing your name. You're on an 8 out of 9 as well, but the 9 out of 9s come in with Ben, Whisky with Molly. Graham Fraser. Let's see how your pal Billy is. Billy is on a 9 out of 9 as well, Ollie. I'm sorry.
I know. Well, he does know more than me. That's just a fact of life.
Sugar Kitty's on a 9 out of 9 as well. Sugar Kitty always scoring very, very well. Graham Young is suggesting 8 to 9 out of 9 here, depending on how he interprets it. Superb. Finally, let's go into the asshat at the end. You need to know the answer to 2 different things to get the asshat right. It's deliberately obtuse. I can't remember how difficult this one is, actually. Oh, I remember it now. Ardnahoe was once Scotland's smallest distillery. Today, there are 33 Scotch malt distilleries that are smaller than Ardnahoe. Think about that. Today, there are 33 smaller Scotch malt distilleries than Ardnahoe. Amazing. But I'm going to ask you, how many of them are smaller than Daftmill? This is all according to the 2026 Malt Whisky Yearbook. The answer is about the same as the number of A, operational Islay distilleries as we speak. B, about is the same as the number of millions of litres per annum of alcohol capacity of Dalmore. C, the number of officially bottled batches of Lefroy 10 cask strength. Interestingly, we might have unintentionally discussed this tonight, Ollie.
But are you? Well, yeah, but you are saying that. But are you including the first batches of cask strength? Because batch one isn't batch one. If you get my drift.
The answer is yes.
That's not helpful at all.
It's not. So what I'm asking is simply, how many distilleries, Scotch malt distilleries, do we have today that are active, that are smaller than Daft Mill by litres of capacity, obviously, annual. Sorry, I'm getting confused. How many distilleries are smaller than Daft Mill today? So Daft Mill is famously one of Scotland's smallest distilleries, you know, seasonal distilling, all of that stuff, but it still has a theoretical annual capacity. And that's probably what's quoted in the Malt Whisky Yearbook, right? Not what they make, but what they have the ability to make. You've mentioned tonight that Tormore is doing 3.5 million litres, but if you ran a full shift and if you did you could make 5 million litres per annum. So, given the fact that Daft Mill is widely regarded as Scotland's smallest, actually, it turns out, as we sit here in 2026, there are multiple distilleries smaller than Daft Mill, and that equates to the same or around the same number as A, the amount of operational Islay distilleries that are currently in existence, B, the amount of million litres per annum of alcohol, that is the capacity of Dalmore, or C, how many batches of Lefroy 10 cask strength have to date been officially bottled? Wow. The Saturday is supposed to confuse, but it's not supposed to confuse me, but I am confused now.
I'm gonna go with C, only because I feel like at least if it's wrong, I can claim some sense of not understanding how many cask.
And what number would you put on that?
17, 18, 19.
I'm going to help you here. I'm going to give you a chance to change your mind if you want to. Operational Islay distilleries until Portintruan comes on stream later in 2026. We hope to make it 12. It's currently 11. Millions of litres per annum, believe it or not, after the upgrades at Dalmore, they'll be massive. In the top 10 biggest distilleries in Scotland, 9 million litres per annum. Thus far, officially released batches of Lefroy 10 cask strength. Maybe there are batch 18 is out there in the market, but 17, if Ollie's saying that the first batch didn't have a batch number on it and the second batch was batch 1 or something like that, it doesn't matter.
I think you'll find it's like at least 2 or 3 batches, right? Just absolute clarity, right? You've got the cask strength litre for GT3 green stripe. You've got red stripe. You've got, there's multiple batches.
Just settle down. The question clearly says about the same as the number of. So we've got a 9 as an option, 11 as an option, and 17 as an option. Do you want to stick or move?
You know what? I'll stick with C.
Ollie Chilton, you're a superstar. Absolutely. Depending on, if I go by the Malt Whisky Yearbooks, we're actually listing 16 distilleries. There are potentially 17 or 18. There's a couple that are not missing, especially these wee tiny micro distilleries that appear. They suddenly start to make whiskey. So yeah, we're in that neighbourhood. So official bottlings of batches of Lefroy 10 cask strength. We're currently, the latest one I could find is 17, 18 if it's out there in the wild. I'm covered by the fact I'm saying about the same number as. So C is absolutely right, buddy. Well done. That means you score a 9 out of 10 tonight, right?
Well, I'm either an 8 or a 9, depending on how you want to count.
I think it's still
geographic, the Speyside geography.
It's fantastic work. Fantastic work. So let's see. Whiskey with Molly's questioning his own 10. Oh, let's see. Is anybody going to... not too shabby, says Andy Hill's on a 9 out of 10. Well done, Andy. Lachlan McKenzie's in with a 9. Is Greg's Whiskey Guy. Greg's still in Paris, still with us with a 9 out of 10. Steve Atkins on a 9. Superb, Steve. So that original banana skin is the only one that slipped you up. The same as Ollie, I think, Steve. You and Ollie are matching. Jerry Miller on a 9 out of 10. Daisy Vleeland on an 8. Daisy, 2 banana skins. Rick Johnson, the same. Big Jimmy Jazz, the same. I'm looking for a 10. I'm looking for a 10. Are there any 10 claims tonight? Sugar Kitty, Jeff, you superstar. He's claimed a 10 out of 10 tonight. Well done, you. What Mike Molasses is saying, that is unbelievable. Sorry, Mike. We let you down. Sugar Kitty celebrating with the 10 out of 10 emoji. I'm looking for Billy. Of course I am. I'm looking for Graham Fraser. Of course I am. Where are you, boys? Where are you? I can't see you. I can't see you. Why can't I see you? Have you got the chat up? Can you see?
I can, but I saw Billy said, I think Billy got 9.
Boomer is celebrating a 12 out of 10 because he got 3 on the first question. Superb. Superb. Okay. Fantastic. Daisy is saying congrats all the 10 out of 10s. Congrats on it. I thought that maybe there was a chance there was going to be a lot of 10 out of 10s tonight, but there you go. Falsgraph is celebrating getting the ass hat for the second time. Graham Fraser also got a 10 out of 10 according to Sugar Kitty. Graham, of course you did. Superstar, well done. And Billy Abbott is saying, oh, only a 9 out of 10 for me. Only a 9 out of 10, right? Peter is saying, and with that, I call it a day. And always tonight. Thanks for organising, as always, Aquaviti. Thanks to Ollie for participating, and to all of you, see you next time, Slanchava. Fantastic, buddy. It's always a pleasure to have you in here, Frank. Thanks for saying good night, as always. Ollie, it's very late. I said that I did tell you I would keep you awake until midnight. Yeah. Well, we've kicked the backside out of that. We're now running at 3 hours 41. That's even more than a Roddy vPub, which tells me one thing. It tells me that when you get somebody on that is impassioned about whiskey, and I have to say ridiculously humble about it as well, which is Dunning-Kruger in reverse. Anyway, we can talk about that. It's always that idea that it doesn't matter what we talk about, we know that we can continue to talk about and just let ourselves bounce from topic to topic and topic, and the community learns more and more and more. But I think the biggest thing that they learn is not the factoids and the little nuggets, and it's not even the better perspective. It's the idea of just enjoying whiskey with a little bit of pragmatism and an understanding that it's not all designed, it's not all cynical, it's not all... whiskey is just whiskey, and in there lies the fascination. I think speaking to you, the same as any time I've met you face to face, made me realize that it would be very, very easy to spend something like 3 hours 42 minutes to sit and make it feel like it's been a mere cup of tea. I've enjoyed it very much tonight, Ollie. I really have. I suspect that the folk that tuned in enjoyed your company tonight as well. I suspect that you may be bullied to come back again at some point in the distant future. Maybe when you've got some product from Portintruan. Maybe when you've got some experience under your belt, or how things are going at Tormore.
Well, wait until maybe we can all do it in person. I've really enjoyed tonight. It's been great fun, right? It's been great fun the quiz was good fun.
Always.
I don't mind looking stupid. It's been good. Lovely people. So anyway, any chance to get to drink a lot of whiskies is a good excuse.
Superb. Superb. Buddy, I'm going to read out some messages, but if you'll be kind enough, if you don't need to run off, if you have to go off and do something, that's fine. I'll drop you in the background. If the credits roll and you're still here afterwards, I'll raise a glass with you and a digest afterwards. But otherwise, let me, on behalf of everyone that's tuned in tonight and hung out with us for 3 hours 3 3/4 hours. It's quite amazing. Thank you, buddy. Thank you. Thank you for your trust. Thank you for your candid, interesting, your anecdotes, your stories, your facts, your insight. I'm not going to thank you for the lack of exclusives. That would have been nice for you to tell us when for the 12-year-old's going to drop and all that kind of thing. But we're okay. Whiskey's taught us to be patient, at least. But Ollie Chilton, it's always a privilege. It is. You're one of the. I would put you in a bracket of folk that I'm very, very glad to entrust what's happening in whiskey right now and consider you a guardian. And I'm glad you're here. Ollie, thank you for stepping behind the bar at the vPub. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers.
Till next time, Ollie. We'll get him back again. We will get him back again. I enjoyed that. Enjoyed that a lot. I enjoyed that at least as much as I expected to, but perhaps a wee bit more, actually. I hope that you enjoyed it as well. There are people out there that genuinely endear themselves to you because it's not just about how much they love whiskey. It's how much I think that there is an appreciation and awareness that they are mere transient guardians. I think that comes across. Actually, Ollie's a perfect ambassador for that. But I also get that sense from everyone that works behind the scenes at Elixir. Sure, Kitty is still celebrating his 10 out of 10. Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Can Ollie's wife be the next guest, says Mike Molasses? Well, he's teased it tonight. Could be a potential for the future. Whiskey with Molly saying good night, Barflies, good night, Aquaviti, good night, Ollie, and thanks so much, Ben. Thank you so much for your participation tonight. Pedro in Brazil, still here. Thank you very much for another memorable vPub, Aquaviti, and Barflies, and a very special thank you to Ollie Chilton. Amazing to have you with us. I agree, Pedro. Thank you. Good night, everybody, says Billy Bennett. A really great vPub tonight. Roy and Oliver. Thank you very much, Billy. Daisy in the Netherlands is saying, thank you, Roy and Ollie. Thoroughly enjoyed the crack. Good night, everyone, and see you next week. Next week looks like it's going to be an inaugural vPub topic, but you know me. Wait and see how my mood is next week. Greg in Paris is saying, okay, I'm going to put a waking alarm on. I'm done. But it was great to hear Oliver's story. I'm not working with him, but at least I got to hear his story. Impressive Aquaviti in Slantia. Thanks, Ollie, from Graham Fraser. Look forward to catching up at Leith. Cheers, Roy. Cheers, Graham. I'll see you there. Mike Molasses saying, thanks to Ollie, one of the best industry guests yet. Thank you so much, Mike. I also feel the same. Rick Johnson in San Francisco saying, this has been a tremendous vPub, Roy. Thanks so much to Ollie for this time with us tonight. Well, I'm going to raise a wee glass to all of you. I'm going to say thanks to you all. Thank you for your indulgence. Thank you for staying with us when the vPub is 2 hours and 2.5 hours and 3 hours. And a special thanks to when the vPub is 3 3/4 hours. I hope it's valuable for those of you with the staying power and stamina to stay till the end. Thank you. I'm going to raise this glass and remind you all that you're very dearly loved. I look forward to welcoming you again next week. Until then, Slanchava. Cheers.